Hi, everybody.
Hey, everyone, and
Bria's
welcome
having
to...
a whole breakdown over there.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of emotions here. It's about things that matter. Chocolate.
Oh,
so
yes.
characteristic of New Pantheon, then.
Yeah. And welcome to New Pantheon's Talkback. We haven't done one of these before, and I'm very excited. You sent in questions, and we got answers. As you'll notice, we're joined by the always handsome Zook.
Hello.
Moderating.
How's it going? How's everyone doing? We staying?
Hot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
You're all hot.
We are all currently baking here in Los Angeles, California.
Yeah.
In more ways than one for some of us.
Indeed.
I feel called out, and I don't know why. Well, we're joined by our usual table, starting with Eric Reichert.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eric, and I played Flynn. And hi.
Aki, who only likes her chocolate if it is black as night.
Yes, I am a dark chocolate, as dark as you can get it. The only milk chocolate I will accept is a Brienne Iyengar, and that's on period. I am Aki, and I was Will, your verdant and scion of Aja of the Original Pantheon, and I said what I said.
They said what they said, yes. Also joining us is a fellow Gladiators fan, Sam DeLev.
Hello, and condolences to all fellow Gladiators fans out there this week.
I missed yesterday's game, but oof.
I started watching a sport. It's okay, though, because it's a video game. I'm Sam DeLev. I play Bells de Moy, the muse of our party, and happy to be answering questions. This is going to be fascinating.
Yeah. And last but certainly not least, she takes her chocolate like she takes her men, Abria Iyengar.
Hello, I'm Abria. I play Megan, the warrior, daughter of Ares, and one-time LA Valiant fan. So, I've crossed over, though. I'm a Glad fan. Just shields up.
Shields up.
Shields up. Sorry, I have a question that it's pretty out of context. Sam, I didn't get what your support, what's your main?
Oh, yeah. So because I just started playing Overwatch this week, I played Moira because everyone says that she's super easy, and also that you probably shouldn't play her, but then I did and it was fun. And then I watched all of the professional people do it on the maps where you get all clumped together. Yes. And so I felt vindicated, but also sometimes Mercy.
Ooh,
basically,
nice.
No aim. That's the Venn diagram there.
Are you a battle Mercy, though?
I am not a DPS Moira, and I am not a battle Mercy. I am a creature of standards.
You actually play Moira the way she's supposed to be played, and that's respectable.
You get such big
Steven,
names.
what's your main?
Oh, Zenyatta.
Oh yeah, sweet. I'm a Lucio main because we look the same, and it made me happy. That's another no aim main. I just boop. Give me a corner.
Yes. And welcome to Overwatch Talk here on Saving Throw Show. No. So Dom, yes, this is our talkback, correct?
This is our talkback, and thank you, everybody. I have you all. Everything is working correctly, so let us begin. We have 3 questions, so we're going to answer questions first that were submitted to us via the question form. We got a few of those, and then we will answer questions from chat. So hold on to your questions until we get through the ones that were submitted first, and then we're going to go. So let us begin, and maybe think about questions for each other, because I think that's always an interesting little bit. I think these always develop into something like that. See Me David 95 mod extraordinaire asks, what was the thought process behind the brilliant use of the Hotel California as a murder mystery setting for this season?
Okay. I have to be honest, a big part of this was actually me going through and rereading Umbrella Academy. The TV show and the comic are wildly different, and I really wasn't sure where to take you guys after El Dorado, but I got really fixated on the idea of what could kill a god. So I just kind of combined some surrealist imagery I stole verbatim from Invisible Sun with some of the work of, I can't remember his name. He's my husband, and I can't remember his name. The guy who made Umbrella Academy.
Oh, from the band.
Gerard
Gerard
Way.
Way.
Gerard
Yeah.
Way, thank you.
Tom
God.
Hanks.
And Tim
Eric's
Allen.
got it.
No. Yes. So that was really where the idea came from. And eventually it just sort of evolved from there where I was like, okay, there'll be 13 floors and each one will kind of have its own thing. So yeah, that's pretty much where that came from.
Nice.
And obviously, he was very heavily influenced by my Delta Green one-shot from 2 years ago that also was Hotel California.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be honest, it kind of was. I'm not joking. I'm not being cute. I will go back and I will watch Saving Throw Show one-shots, especially ones that I'm not on, because I do not like looking at myself for that long. And one of them, when you did the Delta Green Hotel California one, I was like, that's actually a great name for a location for gods.
It's a solid one. Yeah.
Prince of Wolves asks, did you plan anything ahead as a group, like the romantic relationships, for instance?
Well, Abria has been very good about like messaging me throughout this the last season and this season, where she'd be like, hey, is it okay if our characters do a smooch? And like
That's how I sound every time. It's
Just like that.
And a lot of the times, half the time I miss it for like 20 minutes, the message, and then I'm like, oh wait, yeah, I guess it's cool. But yeah, that's like, it's not like plans like this season, this is the arc of the. She'll just be like, what if they bang now?
I mean, yeah, that's more of a consent thing. I'm just like, hey, I don't want to like foist this on you. I know we're friends and you are super chill and like down to roll with anything, but like that can be weird. So I wanted to make sure it was okay. But I do use that voice every time to diffuse the tension.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I don't know. Sam and I spent Christmas Eve together last year talking about Will and Bells in season 2.
And then it went the opposite of everything we talked about, yet
Mhm.
again illustrating that crucial principle that players plan and the game laughs.
Yes, indeed. And I think that if anything, this game has taught me that there's only so much planning you can do before you kind of have to just give the game what the game is sort of putting in front of you. And so, no, things didn't work out. I think the way either Samurai expected it to with Will or Bells, not even close. But it did still tell a story that people consistently tell, at least to me, I don't know about Sam, has meant a lot to them. So I think that regardless of some of the train wreck that happened with those two, I know that they meant a lot to people. And that I think makes it worth it, regardless of how things kind of ended up.
Yeah, there's a consistency, I feel like, and the players, or the players obviously, but the characters there's a familiarity, I think, with the relationships, and you all have really kind of touched on sort of key facets of relationships that everyone kind of goes through. So whether you're a god or not, I think it made it really relatable for people who are watching, which I think is really good. And I like when things, kind of, sometimes great things don't work out. And I think it's really interesting to kind of follow that path and see where things go. So that was really
Yeah, I do have to say, it, as a storyteller, as the Herald, I was really surprised with how Will and Bells, how the relationship went. But it never had me going, well, that doesn't make sense, or well, why are they acting like? No, like it felt really organic. So props to both of you for that. Like, you gave me feels, and I'm running this stupid thing.
I think it was really interesting coming in on season 2, where all of the will they, won't they had been resolved before I even showed up. So it becomes, I don't know, sort of meta narrative around like the friend that only ever knew a couple together, and then having to like learn those relationships as like separate and distinct, while still occasionally reaching back to like, if I first understood you as like Will and Belle's like one word, do they still default to that? And I tried to like pay homage to that a couple times by like pressing a little more than like a Bria would about like, are you guys getting back together? Like, what's going on with this? Like, I don't know. I think about that so much, and it's such a weird and interesting thing to watch, like the uncoupling of a of a pair of characters, while still handling like the full narrative, like character arcs about like growing into oneself without their partner around is just a really interesting thing. And it was very, very fun to watch and like play a minor part in.
I think
Minor.
Yeah, I would not say that Megan was a minor part of any of that. So
I think a lot of times in RPGs, relationships are always sort of we build into a relationship, but we never really go out of a relationship. We just see it progresses, and it usually hits a climax of some point, but we don't really see where it goes after that. And I think part of that was the narrative structure that you did, Stephen, in flash forwarding throughout the seasons, so that we did have so that we did have the advance in time that gave us sort of an excuse to sort of see where these characters would be beyond, you know, because usually you're like week to week to week, and it's like, well, nothing would have happened very much from week to week. But now,
Yeah,
you know,
it would be less compelling if it was like, okay, yeah, in this episode, my character cries in a fetal position eating Oreos again, I guess. Everyone else have fun.
wait,
Eric, you
is
told
that-
you
is
told me
that
you wouldn't
not-
tell them.
Is that not what Will did every episode of this season?
I assumed it was something vegan.
It was probably
Oreos are vegan.
Oreos are vegan
Oreos are vegan. So yes,
But
because they're barely food.
they are
Sure.
very barely food, but
They
they
are
are
mostly
100%
cocoa
vegan.
powder, chocolate,
but they're
and water.
kosher dairy. So they have to have come in contact with dairy equipment at some point, or with a dairy-derived ingredient.
They get blessed by the cow pope.
And they're
Yeah.
therefore no longer.
I have so many questions.
Yeah.
The cow
So
pope.
next season's all about cowpope.
right? Yeah, I really hope.
Yeah, that would. First it was frogs, and now we're all cows.
Cow
Cool.
Pope, bebop. Yep.
Well,
found it.
we're frogs trying to save the cow pope. Keep up.
Okay. R. Kreutz Landry, I hope I pronounced that right. Thank you for
You nailed it.
Spelling it out as well. Says, how much research prep goes into portraying various deities?
Okay. So, especially in the early seasons of the show, I was doing a lot of Wikipedia diving. I was learning. I learned a fair bit about other parts of the world I'd never really looked into. Especially for Will, the Orisha Yoruba and that whole pantheon is utterly fascinating and really kind of beautiful. It's not kind of, it's just beautiful. So learning about that was really important, but a big thing that I always tried to sort of do was pay respects to what they are, but still make sure they were characters. And I also, and we talked about throughout the game, the idea of what people think of you isn't necessarily the truth or your truth. And like Aphrodite was a major character for me with that, where I wanted to, because if I played Aphrodite the way she is actually presented in a lot of fiction, she is unlikable, terrible, and cruel for seemingly no reason. Ares more so. In fact, 95% of all the Greek pantheon would be like that. And I still played them like a bunch of jerks. But I wanted to make sure like every deity I presented was done with a level of care. And also they were still characters, especially with the, like Flynn was easy. Flynn was Robin Hood, Doctor Who. They're British pop culture stories. They're already something to kind of play with. But when it comes to Aja in particular, because there is not a lot of widely available stuff. You have to do some real digging to learn about her. I wanted to make sure I played her with that level of respect and care and everything, but I also wanted to make sure she wasn't boring, I guess. And that's, I feel like I'm just kind of repeating myself at this point. So a lot of learning, a lot of reading, a lot of Wikipedia holes.
What about the rest of you?
Yeah.
I relied on a pre-existing special interest.
Were you a Greek kid?
Oh, very, like, elementary school on up through totally unnecessary classics classes in college. Just, yeah, I, learned to type by typing through the Iliad and Mavis Beacon because you could import text. Like, that kind of, I have opinions about which translations to use for Homer. Lattimore in my mind. I cannot, no, putting it away. But I pretty much rolled into here with most of what I had from that. It was one of the reasons I was attracted to that Pantheon in the first place, because it is like, one of the big headline, like, it doesn't need more highlighting kind of pantheons. Like, it's gotten plenty of play, but I'm still that guy. So I was like, sure, why not?
My answer is exactly Sam's answer, and just adding in that I was very close to going back to school to get a master's in classical civ while I was at UCLA. So like, that's why I feel like I've played around with like a bunch of other like cool pantheons. Don't make this face, because if you cry, I'm gonna cry. Stop.
It's fine. I just love you so much. It's fine. It's fine. Cool. Please continue.
But yeah,
we can't have one meeting. We can't even have our talk without crying.
It's the heat. It's the heat in my eyeballs. But yeah, to actually answer, this was my first time playing like a big obvious pantheon, so I really wanted to like get into it and like deal with what I thought was my favorite part of the Greek pantheon, is that they're just like, they fight and bang it out, and like, that's about it. That's their whole deal. It's their entire kit, and I wanted to play in that space in a fun and very stupid way.
At some point, I accosted Stephen via text and told him, if you're going to introduce new people from my Pantheon, you have to warn me so I can do research, because I feel like an idiot.
And I did apologize for that one. Want that on record?
Because it did get to a point where like Stephen had done so much research, and because he was the one crafting the story, he kind of knew it was going to be introduced beforehand, and I had no idea. So like, there's this wide array, because not only did we do the Orisha Pantheon, he also brought in like hoodoo and voodoo and like a lot of the Creole and like all of that stuff from New Orleans as well, and so like, and the Caribbean, and all of that stuff, and it's a wide range of stuff to study. It's kind of difficult to like really kind of focus in on one thing or another. So at some point I was just like, Steven, tell me when you're introducing me to new stuff.
Sorry.
But it did mean that like there were a few places that I spent some time researching on my own, because I wanted to at least have sort of a handle on like the core basics of my Pantheon, because if there's one thing I can talk about, is that the biggest reason why I chose the Orisha as my Pantheon is because, one, it gets no representation in media whatsoever, and two, as an African American who has no idea where I come from or what my ancestry is, like, this was kind of my way of letting myself connect with that and kind of reclaim some of that. And it was, and that in and of itself was sort of the big draw of playing in that field, because I didn't know anything about it. I'd never had any exposure to it, wouldn't really think to pursue it on my own. But it did kind of help me feel a little bit closer to like something. I don't know if it's my something, but it was something. So
Yeah, I feel like when I came up with the concept, it was less about the Pantheon. I just thought it would be fun to be Robin Hood's son. So it wasn't like so Steven had to do all the work because I was like, I'm just Robin Hood's son, but like whatever. It's just I'm just literally playing my unfiltered opinions about the world is just my character. And we never got like we never explored heavily into like the Pantheon that much. Like there was one time where we like in the first season we went up against Frankenstein's monster and like Doctor Who showed up a couple of times, but like we never had to deal with like, you know, Beowulf or anything even like remotely, like it was very surface level stuff, so we never had to go very deep into the British Pantheon and come up like, here is the great picked warrior, what's his name, and it's like, oh god, I don't know who any of these people are.
I will say I actually did make up the Pantheon like hierarchy and everything. So at the very least that does exist. There are notes for that.
That's
we just
fun.
never really got into it because honestly, I felt like it was one of those things that if I did present that to Flynn, Flynn would be like, and dropped, walking away.
Yeah, also Flynn didn't give a crap about his family, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
That'll be a Patreon unlock. We'll let people know what the.
He did learn eventually to care about some of the members of his family, though.
Like the real ones, not the concepts. You should care more about your dad. He's hot.
It is.
At least your mom was fun.
It is kind of fascinating, the pantheons that you all kind of went with, because they're all so different. And the Greek pantheon is, yes, it's a super heavy, well known pantheon, and I think that the way that you two played within that, and the way that Stephen kind of presented it, kind of um, brought the feeling of the pantheon, from myths and everything kind of into a real world setting, you know, almost more than I've ever seen it really before, which really made it kind of fresh in a way. Like it wasn't a God of War set, you know, like these are titans and these are, you know, this is a family and we're cousins, and kind of weird cousins, sometimes brother cousins, sister cousins, things like that. And it's like
wife cousins.
It gets, it gets real dirty really fast. And with the Aja Orisha, that was like very almost, well, for me obviously it was like I pulled out my college world mythology book, which has a big section on Africa, but I remember going through that and learning about it, and then it never really, like, it didn't connect with me. And I think that says a lot, Akia, what you were saying about that it really helped kind of connect you a bit to a history that you weren't super familiar with. And I think that it was really fun and interesting to kind of see that sort of unfold. And I feel like Will kind of had that same sort of like reaction a little bit whenever, I mean, it might have been a little bit of half Aki half Will's, where you're like, oh right, yes, you are part of my pantheon, you know. And it just kind of like felt like there was a discovery there on everybody's part, which I thought was really fascinating. And then with Robin Hood, it was like a completely, because we were introduced to the concept of folklore and I guess modern myths, you know, an American God style type of myth, where it's like Doctor Who is a myth, you know, or Doctor Who is a
Yeah,
figure
because it's
of a
not.
pantheon.
I think what Steven was saying, it's not like Doctor Who is a god, but there's the concept of the Traveler, which is currently in the form of Doctor Who, because that's what people perceive the Traveler as.
Right, yeah. And I thought that it kind of, it touched on all those little moments, and we didn't really get to kind of delve too deeply into all of them, which was great, because there's a lot to go in there. It's a deep well, but I thought it was really fun how you all kind of played into your different pantheons like that. So that was really fun. Um, cool. Do you all have questions for each other before we get into questions from chat?
I actually have one for Abria. so you came in after our first season, and you've been very vocal that the Warrior playbook is based on you, and Megan is also very you.
It's just Megan, not the Warrior playbook. Just like the background of Megan, which for what it's worth, Jason was right before we ever met. And then after we talked for a while, he was like, wait a second, I think this is very close. So we sat down and like had a couple meetings as he was finishing up playbook stuff. So a lot of the modern lore is literally based on my like background, you know, except for the God part.
Sure, we know about.
I'm a normal dad.
No, I was gonna ask, like, you came in late, but you took to it like a duck to water. And I was like, I just want to know, how was it like coming in later to a campaign and just sort of making it work?
So, correct me if I'm wrong. I think at this point, like when I came in, I definitely had been playing with Eric for a while. I had run a game for you, Steven, when I first came to Saving Throw, and I think I had played with Aki maybe once.
Yeah, you and I think, had done at least maybe a longest day game together, or something like that.
I think that's what it was, yeah. And then, of course, I had just been a fan of Sam for the longest. So I think...
Oh, you ran my Masks game.
Yeah, I had the squad in the mask. It was very, very good. And so it was a mixture of like, I'm very comfortable with the Demigods like playbooks. Literally, I have played all of them at this point. I love it. I love this system a ton. So there was no fear of that. And the fact that I had played with most of you and had been a fan of all of you before I came in, it was more of a like, okay, I have a strong sense of what they're about and what they're like, because I'm obsessive and watch like footage of APs to try to learn. So it was more of a like, kind of coming in as fans of everyone in the group and just trying to find like a spot to live with the squad. So yeah, I think it was just a bunch of me coming in and very much as like the warrior, like sort of bull in the china shop, like, hey, do I go here? Where do I fit in? I want to be a part of this. And just trying to come in and like
hopefully not with you. Yeah, I get it. Mission accomplished. Can you believe that we didn't know each other before this project?
Yo!
But it worked well. Like Megan fit in well because none of us were fighters. Like Flynn and Bells are really social characters, and Will should be a fighter but isn't. And so our only fighter in season 1 was River, who would just like, I don't know, I guess I'll hit someone with a tire iron, like, because it's magic.
Seems like the thing to do at the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There are two ways to build a verdant: the fighter and the non-fighter.
Yeah. But so it was very fun. It felt like a sort of like serendipitous opportunity to come in and as like a like generally like RPG like competent person go like, here's the spot I can obviously fill. But also like it was a fun opportunity to be like, oh, this is a playbook that like I love more than most other playbooks because I feel connected to it. And it actually is like pretty off brand. Like I tend to like playing party faces and talking more than punches. So it felt like a good chance to do both things simultaneously.
Very cool.
All right, we got some questions that are...
Hold on, can I ask my question to the group, Dom, please?
Dom?
I mean, I was going to pepper your questions throughout.
Fine, that's fine. I'll wait.
We'll pepper.
First off, I do want to say that it is September, and you can get up to 30% off a new subscription to the channel. So you could do this to any channel that you want here on Twitch. So all these folks who have channels who are able to be subbed to, please do check them out. I believe we have at least 3 people here on this cast, I believe, that are all affiliate level or higher, yes? So you can go check out Aki or Sam or Eric all have their own Twitch channels that they stream on. So go give them a sub. And also think about maybe giving us a sub too, or gifting subs to folks onto these channels. And it's just it's a good time to do it. We get the full amount, but you get a discount. So it's a great time to do it. And you can also do multi-month subscriptions now. So not just 1 month, but 3 months, 6 months, and beyond. So consider doing that. We greatly appreciate it, and it helps keep shows like this on the air. So thank you very much. All right, I'm going to read a couple questions, and we'll go back to cast questions. This is from Thesser. What is something you'll take forward in your future games from your character in this one? And we'll start with Sam.
Well, all right. I think for Bells, I already have, because Bells was one of the first social focused face characters I've ever played, or particularly ever played for stream. I have always had a very high level of respect for the capacity to effectively be a person in a game rather than manipulating rules through the combat engine, like that is the arete of a physical character in a TTRPG, or puzzling things through intellectually, which is something that I just sort of feel very comfortable in. Bells was, by their very nature, a lot of me stepping outside of playstyles that I already normally gravitated to. And to that extent, I've played so many, like, that has been a whole thing that I have done more ever since I started playing Bells in season 1.
Dang.
Let's go with Eric.
Okay. Definitely, I think the thing that I took from the show and will continue to take is I was rightly so probably afraid of character drama, not in like relationship drama, but like my character making choices that are in keeping with their character, that are against the group as a whole. Which is something like a lot of it's an incredibly problematic and toxic thing that a person goes like, well, I stabbed the bread maker because I'm chaotic evil. It's what I would do, you know. So I've been in tables with people like that before. So I was against trying it, but I think with Flynn, I found out how to do it and make it work. How to make choices that I know will anger the other characters, but not the players. And that's definitely something that I've taken now into other games.
Aki.
I've talked a little bit about how vulnerable I am when it comes to Will, because Will is so closely attached to a lot of like personal things that I've gone through. But I would say what I would take from Will is the ability to accept that sometimes you're going to be out of step with the people around you, and that is okay. Doesn't mean anything's wrong with you.
Mm-hmm. Abria.
I think it's a thing that I'm still working on. I don't think I've like nailed it yet, but I think playing Megan has forced me to sharpen my focus on a character that has like a sort of single point of motivation. Like Megan is here to hit stuff, and I don't want to make like a character that's inherently one note. Like they do other things too, but I think playing in this space where like Megan has such a clarity of purpose and like is here to do the one thing and sort of bends her environment and her context around her so she gets to do the thing that she wants to do is kind of an interesting and fun thing to carry forward, and sort of playing with that in more interesting ways than just like the one very combat like heavy playbook in a game with a lot of both. It's just the idea of like really honing in on like singular and sort of obsessive like individual motivation, and like how to have a character that still feels like real and fleshed out, that like wants the one thing a bunch.
It's why I loved how it cohered so nicely with Megan's athletic background, because that is a personality type and a development of practice toward a single purpose and doing that one thing.
Yep.
That then still has translational skills into hitting stuff. Like it was all lined up so nicely, like making those singularly focused characters motivated, and particularly to make a combat character who wasn't motivated by like dark demons kind of thing, but it felt like a very bright line development from doing the sports to doing the punches.
Yes. Yeah, I thank you for clocking, because I think I've like have sort of yelled at my husband a bunch about this, because I was like, oh man, I feel like Megan is the closest to like what I felt like as an athlete, where it was just like, it's not the only thing I care about, but it's like the only thing I've ever been like praised to care about. So like even without thinking, like they sort of like have moved their worldview to that, like, this is the thing, this is what I do. And it's sort of like in that sort of, it's just business. Like Megan doesn't take like doing a murder, getting into a fight personally, because it's just what you do, and you do the thing that you do the best you can. And yeah.
It read so nicely, and it motivated the character in a way that's so distinct from what I usually see from combat, like focused characters. There are so many characters in the world who are like, I am here about doing an attack. And to make it feel so grounded in an experience of just how high level athletes are, just read so beautifully. There, this chapter of the Iyengar Appreciation Society. We'll take a short pause.
Love you.
Thesser asks also, can we ever look forward to an All God Pets one-shot anytime in the future? I need the further adventures of Palm and friends in my life.
New Pantheon. Okay, I'm done.
Were you waiting? Did you know it was coming?
No, it just happened.
I mean,
Beautiful.
I'm kicking myself for never thinking of that.
Yeah, we all play our pets, but we're playing Pugmire.
Oh my god.
In a heartbeat would I be Palm, just an obnoxious little Pomeranian that occasionally like burps fire.
A Pomeranian warlock, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
I would have to do what I do in A Darkened Wish and play two characters again.
Yeah.
But with so much contrast, I would love to hear them talk to each other, because you're
And
so
Horo
good
and
at doing
Jaffa.
that in Darkened Wish. And these would be so distinct. It would be a different take on the same fundamental skill. Bells didn't have a pet.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, who would you play?
I guess we would find out.
Okay, $1,000 goal for today. Do I have the ability to do this?
I'm not
if
gonna
you say
stop you.
something on internet, it becomes canon. I think
Yeah.
that's Twitch law.
But Dom can see me now to yell at me.
If you say it on stream, if Dom doesn't mute us before you're able to say it, it becomes law.
Yeah.
That is the rule.
Oh, I
You
didn't
say
do it
on
in
stream
time.
and it
So
gets uploaded to
$1,000
YouTube,
stream.
It's there forever.
$1,000 goal.
Yep.
If we hit $1,000
New
today,
Pantheon.
New
we'll
Pantheon.
do a
Right.
Pantheon. New Pantheon.
Yes.
I love it.
But you have like 5 pets at this point, Eric. Like Flynn has so many pets.
No, he's only got the one. He's
You've
only
got
got the dog.
Well, I mean, yeah, unless you consider Dakar your pet as well.
Yeah.
Car is
Car is
technically
a pet.
capable
Yeah, I guess-
of leaving their vehicle form and wandering
Yeah,
around.
the car is a transformer, so
Yes.
I mean, I guess
Car,
yeah.
I believe that Car is now like a fully sentient and capable being within their own right, and yes.
Don't
They
you also have
1,000%
like a
are.
sentient Clippy in your laptop that like trolls you?
Technically, I have more than 2 pets too. I have like several. I have a menagerie at this point. Like Will ended up with quite a few like magical creatures that I couldn't do. Like I have my bee.
Oh yeah, baby.
I have baby,
Oh, I forgot about the bee.
and then I also had the skull as well.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You did. I like to imagine he's just at the bottom of your book bag, chilling.
Hanging out.
He's a skull. What's he got to do?
Okay. DJ Regular, you touched on it a bit earlier, but since each character was a person independent of their pantheons, how did each of you let your character's pantheon affect their reactions to things that happened in the series? Either as a means of embracing their lineage or rejecting it. Were there situations where you had to look at the character and decide how much of their own personality would override any hereditary traits or vice versa?
I can speak to this a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of Will's reaction to the way that Megan and Bells interacted was heavily influenced by their pantheon and the way their pantheon views things like incest. So that influenced a lot of Will's reaction to all of that stuff, and had a big impact on that.
I don't know if it like, I mean, definitely like Flynn's whole like, you know, steal from the rich, give to the poor thing was definitely Robin Hood. But I think like as later it felt like there was like a somewhat British like feeling of like responsibility when his family would be like, well, it's time we do this now. He's like, I have to, I guess. I'm British. I have to just like stop what I'm doing and go do this now.
Stiff upper lip.
I
Grandma asked me to.
You never resist Mima's call. That is known. I think for Megan, kind of knowing that like all of Aries' children specifically were these like heightened emotions. So it's like fear and terror, usually in the context of battle. I wanted Megan to lean into that legacy. So I clearly picked rage for her, and this sort of like it negated some interesting things on her playbook, because a lot of the implication for a warrior is that they're like a battle master and like a tactician. And I was like, what if I just get rid of all of that, because she just barbarians too hard and doesn't want any of that. So
She is pure id, and I loved that about her.
yeah, it's good. There was like a whole section of like, I wish I could take any of this. It's nothing. But yeah, so leaning into that idea was good to help me drive how Megan would react from situation to situation, other than like, I don't know, having the ongoing joke with Bells, basically making the Greeks like hillbillies, just incestuous, like
You mean
hot-headed.
making the Greeks reflect the Greek mythology?
Yeah, sorry, being true to how the Greeks roll. Yeah, I think that was like the thing I leaned into the most, as far as like having her like lean into her legacy, even though I knew pretty early on she was going to like remove herself from it.
Yeah, I think you can see in particularly Belle's relationship with Megan and with Will a lot of the stuff that I drew on, because there's this whole like so much of Greek mythology and character is from the gods banging people they're not supposed to bang in their own pantheon and doing things that they shouldn't do, and having these
I'm gonna turn
inappropriate
myself into a goose because then women will love me.
right like they do. I mean, okay, bad example, moving on.
One time he was an ant.
He had a thing and no one was talking about it. Okay,
Is Zeus a furry?
That was the thing. Yes.
I mean, kind of but it bleeds into other things, because
No shade, no shame.
Where like Loki made himself look like a cow, and then like Odin was a bull, and you know, it's just God stuff.
But it's so unusual to see, like you see it a lot on characters like Loki, on the designated trickster, but Zeus is not that, and so it's interesting. But Aphrodite famously had a whole thing with Ares. It was a whole problem, particularly for her relationship to Hephaestus. So you can see in season 2 of New Pantheon that a lot of that interaction and a lot of what motivates Bells is trying to figure out how not to repeat that cycle and do something differently, because I very much played them to be attracted along those lines. But then Bells is still a character with agency in her own right, and so was trying to struggle through how to handle that in the best way possible, and at least to, even if not minimize hurt, to do right by people. And I think part of what happened with Bells is discovering the extent to which that is not the same thing.
Abria, go ahead and ask your question, and thank you very much. So I have updated the amount. So after talking with chat a little bit, this is how this new Pantheon will unlock now. $500 and 50 subs, and we will unlock new
Ooh.
Pantheon. And we are already down to $480 and 34 subs left. So that's awesome. So thank you all very much. We're down even more. Funageddon, thank you very much for gifting 5 more subs.
Thank
So
you.
we are down to 29 subs left.
Just for one day.
That's
Learn
great. Thank you.
Pugmire.
In my
Thank you
case,
all
a
so
rabbit and a turtle, which they do have playbooks for now in
They do.
Pugmire.
They do. Ooh, maybe we'll use
I only
roots.
had 2 syllables to work with.
Just make it work. Smush them all together.
Well, at least Ijapa won't be as inept as the turtle captain I played in that one game of with you.
Can I just say,
I loved your turtle.
They just wanted to lick everything. Everything. It was not the best way to be a captain, but it was a lot of fun.
I was bird flirting with you, and I regret
Oh
nothing.
yes, I regret nothing on that level either. You were the best little macaw.
I was a cockatiel because I had a big-
Cockatiel?
Yes, that's what you
Yeah.
were. Right.
Okay. I do have
It
to say,
was one of them
I love
exotic
playing a
birds.
Horo.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I got to throw that out there. I loved playing a Horo and I loved playing Ajapa.
Yeah.
Those two were a blast. And once I found out that Ajapa, apart from Tortoise, they're also trickster spirits, I was like, oh, I'm sorry, Aki. I have to do this.
Why
So
are you
good.
apologizing for introducing Slurpees and ridiculousness into our game?
All right. We are 10 subs away now.
Amazing.
Go, Abria, go.
About
You got your
400
question.
Did they
Okay.
see a train or something?
474.
Choo motherfuckers, let's go. Okay, so I want to bring up something that I guess is important to me as a person that came in and only ever played this game with these characters in the Demigods play system, in the PBTA system. So how did it feel for the rest of you to translate your characters from Scion into Demigods? What did that translation feel like? And do you feel like you ended up playing someone that was different or differently constrained, or what was that evolution like?
It was weird because there wasn't one-to-one translation. I was very unsure of which playbook I was gonna go with, because I settled on Trickster and was able to make it, but when we were doing Scion, it's a much more robust, more heavy system. So I picked abilities based on the things that they had available, which was a lot of weird stuff. So it's how do I translate all the weird stuff I could do into this new thing? So there was I had Hack the Planet and various other things that were mechanical things that I could do this, but in this system it's I don't know, everything's magic, you just kind of roll. So it was a challenge to figure out everything that I could do and how to mechanically add those things back in.
I mean, part of the reason I wanted to move us from Scion to Demigods, and it was not a knock on Scion. The story path system, I think, has some really great ideas in it. I think it's a really wonderful little system. In fact, I literally have one of the newer games. It came from beneath the sea right here. You play Bee Movie, and it's very charming. However, I found that it was just a little too cumbersome, especially on stream, especially considering, the enhancement mechanic and everything. So moving to Demigods, I've realized we could do things like Eric's Hack the Planet could just be his weird role, which for me, as someone who loves Powered by the Apocalypse, it was just it was easier for me. But how about you? How about you, Aki and Sam? Both of you had to adapt your characters.
Well, there's usually I played a pretty archetypal character relative to the game systems. Both of these had a place for the play style that I was doing, and so it was overall a fairly faithful translation. There were a couple side things that translated but put different amounts of mechanical weight, or particularly outfit of the day is actually another playbook's ability compared to like my little Moon Prism Power makeup wand that I used in Scion that was like one of my little signature things. So because I didn't get that ability, I didn't like, you can see that be de-emphasized as a thing that Bells did between seasons 1 and 2. Likewise, though Eric rightly said Bells is a social and like Flynn, not a brawler in any sense, the way that we had worked with the Glamazons meant that they very much contributed DPS to Scion, because the Glamazons rolled like 15 dice to attack. And that was like, that didn't have a perfect translation, and we tried a couple things, but in practice, there was so much in the demigod system that was leaning Bells toward awe, just like power everything into awe and make everything a sway someone roll, which is an artifact one finds in a lot of in a lot of PBTA builds. I think there's often a way to sort of like lean and use attribute substitution mechanics, and that ended up being Bell's path. They were more of a focused social when I adapted them to demigods compared to how I played them in Scion. But it was a faithful translation. It was the same character at the end of the day, because it's always easy to implement a straightforward social.
Yeah, because Tuck and like my hacker group in the first season was a mechanical thing that I got from the books, and then Tuck became an NPC and didn't contribute like dice wise to things, and like I think it wasn't even until this last season that I got my you always hit everything, whereas that was one of the first things I picked up in Scion, was that I could throw something and it could hit somebody even if I wasn't trying.
Right. I think at one point I forgot that was a Scion ability that you had, and I, from like a demigod season, had been like, wait, can't you just like automatically hit things?
Yeah, and it became Mary's thing, is like she's really good at the shot thing, and I think we kind of like, we didn't like, I didn't mechanically do a lot of like shooting at things or throwing things until like the end of season 2.
A lot of my answer is pretty similar to Sam's, because I also had like the extraneous component of like Ijapa and Ehoro as basically the people who did my fighting for me. And though to a certain degree I was still able to roll for them in combat situations, at some point the story and my playbook kind of became slightly incongruous to each other. Like, I didn't actually do a lot of rolling out of my actual playbook during season 3. In fact, I did almost none. Like, I used, like, I think I maybe used like actual moves out of my playbook. I can count the number of times on like one hand. Everything else was just basic moves type things. As far as the translation goes between systems, I feel like I had the easiest one-to-one conversion, because I played essentially a Verdant in Scion, and like it was just really easy to be like, yeah, that's the one I do. There are certain components that I don't use in the same way that I did before, but on the whole, like this is pretty, like a lot of what I did in Scion was flavor anyway, so it was just about like kind of tweaking that flavor a little bit to fit the playbook that I had. Otherwise, yeah, I didn't necessarily feel like there was that it was a difficult transition. It meant, yeah, revisiting some of the prior things that Will had in their toolkit to make it work with whatever the story happened to be at the time. And sometimes it translated better than others, depended on the environment that we were in and what we were doing. We actually didn't, like, as a group, didn't do a whole heck of a lot of fighting together. So like I didn't even really get to use my healing abilities all that often. So Will kind of shifted a lot in where they were as a contributor to the story, dependent on the season's needs. So yeah.
And I feel like the more I think about it, the more I realize like I don't think because I wasn't going for like a trickster. Like I was I forget what the demigods playbook is, but there's one that's like the one that's really good at the Hawkeye of the group. Celestial. Yeah, I was like debating whether I wanted Celestial or like I wanted some of the social mechanics from Trickster, so I went Trickster. But I think the fact that I chose Trickster led me down a path of Flynn becoming more of a Trickster than he probably would have if we'd stayed Scion or if I'd gone Celestial, because I don't think I would have made the same decisions. I'm happy with the decisions I made and I like where the character went, but I think like just choosing that playbook dramatically changed the direction of that character for me.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I never would have had the voice in Scion, which isn't from the Muse playbook even, it's the Arcane, and I took 2 of my advances just out of getting the gift and getting the move, but it very much became Belle's signature ability and the thing that they could use, in part because so much of what I took from my playbook were like substitution, like attribute substitution moves and like the provide aid ability, and making my sway rolls really just silly.
Oh yeah.
Without ever getting godlike.
Oh my God, you never had godlike.
No, I just was rolling everything with fate's favor.
Amazing.
Because I put everything into, now it's a sway roll, and then I made my sway roll real good.
Yeah, that wasn't a pain. And when you made it so, I don't have to roll anymore. That was that was fine.
Usually rolled.
That is
but sometimes
true.
I snapped.
I was ready on deck with practical tactical brilliance in case you wanted to do something that wasn't this way roll. I'm like, they don't fail that either.
I now wish that I had made my smite roll that I had made a different thing my dump stat. Mm-hmm. Just because it would have been fun to have that trade-off. And because, gosh, we all just wanted Bells to do a punch, and I was just like, this won't land, and then it will be an arc of defeat, or I use my words, and then there's an arc of victory.
An arc of victory.
That we're gonna rename it. New Pantheon is now Arc of Victory.
Arc of victory. I like it. We'll sell t-shirts.
Yeah, I can do it on Word and make a little word art. And
yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Comic Sans. The most...
MS Paint, let's go.
Thanks to generous folks in chat, we have met the sub goal now. Now we just need to meet the financial goal. So thank you all so very much.
Am I running this? Is this
maybe
happening?
you have a little bit. We have just a little over $300 to go to hit that new Pantheon. So we're getting there. We're getting very close. And thank you all very much. And remember, do tell friends and family. And if you want, like, gift them a sub and then say, hey, guess what? I gifted you a sub to this channel. Go check them out. That's always really super helpful. Okay. Key Squared asks, what's something or someone from one of the Pantheon you wanted to make use of but never got a chance to?
Ooh.
Okay. I really wanted to do something with King Arthur from the Britannia Pantheon. I really wanted to do something with King Arthur from the Britannia Pantheon. And I'll be honest, I was so bummed out no one picked like an Egyptian god because I thought that would be a blast. But no, King Arthur's kind of like my bit. He was a bit of my white whale where I was like, there'll be one day.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you guys? Was there a god or a goddess you really wanted us to play with that we just never found a reason to hang out with?
I think I super would have enjoyed like Megan meeting Hera and being like, oh, I get why you're my dad's mom. Like, that's cool. We're vibing.
I don't know if I could have played her right. Like,
oh, you would have. I believe in you.
She is just anger and id.
Yeah, welcome to Megan. I think
welcome to being married to Zeus.
I mean, it's just
Megan hates Zeus so much, and so does Hera. They would have been like, I think the only way Megan would have stayed in the Greek Pantheon is if Hera like called an audible and was like, "Do you want me to pick up your contract? Do you want to be my my demigod?" And she would have been like, "Fuck yeah, let's go."
I will say, I don't know if I would have played them as married. Because so Hephaestus and Aphrodite, I played them as a couple who are kind of discovering each other and themselves. Like they are on the mend. They might not be there yet, but they're working on it. Like then you had Persephone and Hades, where I just played them as goosh, love, smooches. So I don't know if I could have played Hera as still married to Zeus with a good conscience. She might have just been like, "Oh, we're only married on paper. We live alone. We live separately. I have my own house. I have my own bank account. I dissolved our joint bank account."
Okay. Our Kreutz Landry, how was playing a long-form game using a quick start guide rather than a fully developed game?
Difficult.
Well, I think that is part of the reason why, as we were coming to the end of the second season, a lot of us were looking at our playbooks going, there's not a lot left here to do. And we are now kind of getting into the part where we have to start either thinking about like ascending our characters or like figuring out some other way to bring this ship in for a landing. Because like I know that Eric and Abria specifically were real like this ding dang close. Like Will was about halfway there, and Sam, by virtue of some of the ups and downs of being on the Muse playbook, was like not quite as far along. So it's really great that this season sort of focused on skills that Belle specifically is like really strong in. It was a much more social based module, and required a lot of like heavy lifting from Belle's on that front. And so they got to do a whole heck of a lot more work than they might have in previous seasons, and therefore also a lot more rolling. So we did finally, like Sam managed to beautifully figure out how to get that there. And it was really lovely to see. But it was one of those things where it's like, I remember when we were kind of talking at the beginning of the season, like, I think we're going to kind of bring this to the end. I could see Sam's face and Sam going, but Belle's is not there yet. They did not say
three advances in.
Yeah.
They were like 3 advances in at the top of the season. But like,
I
it's
mean-
because they give out a lot of threads and they don't seduce people and throw parties and a lot of the things that are on those classical advances. Whereas Flynn is lying unnecessarily, like
It was
so
so
much
easy.
that we have to say,
So
actually, you
much.
can't count that more than once per session because you would just be done in one day.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where like it kind of turned out, I don't know if it necessarily happened on purpose, but because of the way that the story of this season was structured, I feel better knowing we were able to end it and get Belle's to at least one ascension move and a little bit further along down that track, because I knew I was done with Will, and I know that Abria and Eric had kind of reached a good place with their characters, but it would have been a shame to have gone out with Belle still kind of being like, hi, I'm over here and I'm not there yet.
Player's job ultimately to figure out how to arc to whatever kind of time you need. In a one shot, you have a short arc. In something that is a short run series, you sort of time your beats along that. When we talked about this ending, it's like, okay, Belle's is a little farther back, so you just accelerate and you just move them through harder. There was never gonna, like, this is a great table. There was never any version of this where Belle's would have just been hanging out to dry.
But man, can we just talk about like the infinite patience of Sam to like sort of levy that ascendance move at the best possible time in the best possible way that like wrapped both like plot and create like character arcs. It was like I was genuinely stunned.
Yeah, it was like I won't lie when I said like it helped basically finish my character for me.
Yeah,
in a really meaningful way.
It was one of those choices where as a GM or storyteller, you're running it and a player makes that move and you're like, that is brilliant, and that is why we do this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look, I always like to find the finale thing that doesn't that zags, and ideally is about friendship, because I'm that guy. Like, how can this be something other than the big bad? Because, you know, there's no shortage of systems for that, and it's very clearly not what Demigods is about. And we are talking all season about how to use the Muse Ascendance move, and like if we even wanted to keep it rules as written and not like we were talking to Jason about doing an alt for it, because you know it's PBTA, you can swap things out. So to use it ends up being built very nicely for that, like bringing out the best of themselves is great for certain points in a story. Again, it's sort of structural. I think honestly the Warrior playbook is a lot like that, because you have to figure out when to play your Ascendance move so that it's impactful of like, yeah, this is an auto win. So when does that structurally make sense to deploy and feel meaningful, as opposed to, honestly, I could roll Snake Eyes and have Godlike anyway. So
True. Which you did.
So to like make it feel distinct, especially given that mechanically you are effectively auto-winning anyway.
Yeah.
And I think it's analogous with Bell's Sway. So
I think you're being way too kind to a playbook that goes, you win fights, now go win fights, versus a Muse. Like, sorry, I accept this compliment and reject the premise that they're equivalent, because my job was very easy as Megan. And I want you to I want everyone watching to be aware of just how special the thing that you did was.
Yeah, because I know, like, me personally, I struggled so hard with Flynn's Ascendance move, because his Ascendance move as written is pick
Very
somebody
off.
else's Ascendance move. Do it. And I'm like, okay. So now I have to know everybody's Ascendance moves and find the right opportunity to use. Oh man, it was tough.
It's a very versatile toolbox, though. That was what was super great about it. And you got to do multiple different ones. You all used your Ascendance moves really rad-ishly.
I think the interesting thing about the Verdant Ascendance move is how out of step it is with who Will is as a person in general. And the one time they use it is actually horrifying and awful for them. It's like actually really traumatic to become that person. Which is why we never see them use it again, and is why it's very unlikely that Will ever ascend it, because it would kind of force them to tap back into an emotional place that they don't want to be, and they're trying to like grow beyond. So yeah, it was very interesting to have that Ascendance move on a character like Will, because the Verdant is by and large considered to be one of the only combat playbooks aside from Warrior on in Demigods. And so to look at that playbook and go like, I will never use half of these moves, like I will never take half of these things, because that's just not who Will is. And in order for them to use their ascendancy move, you have to push them to a specific point that if you've gotten them to this point, things have gone severely wrong. So of course, you know, the day that they break up with Bells is the day they use this move.
And Megan got to watch, and that nothing made me happier than like the exact wrong person watching what happened and learning the wrong lesson from it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because Megan was the impetus for Flynn using his for the first time too.
Yeah, I'm just a pusher. But that makes, like, as much as I want to joke about that, that makes sense. Megan was the one that came in that was like, being a demigod is cool, and then you just get to do like 3 big things and then you dip. Like, she was the one that was very much a pusher to the group, like, nah, get on board, dummies, let's go shopping. Like,
which was like, it was fun because I think in the first season it was a lot of like, everyone was like, I don't know, we've got these powers, but what should we? And then Megan's like kicked in the door. It was like, get in, dummies. We're being gods.
yeah.
I
do
did
god shit with your friends. Woo!
I loved that Megan's whole approach to demigodhood and godhood was not this theoretical, like deep-seated, I have to think about this, I have to really consider it. She was just like, this is great. I knew this was I knew this was happening. Awesome. Let's go get a Slurpee. This is going to be a great night, everybody.
Yeah, sure, there'll be collateral damage and we'll murder someone, but they'll rewrite that anyway, so no one's going to remember.
Thing
There
it was
you
so
go.
Greek. It's that very Greek conception of heroics as effectively like can, therefore do, that you don't really see shift until like, I don't know, fairly classical Athenian society and like kind of Oresteia Eumenides kind of thing.
And then
which-
you have Will over here, like Ian Malcolm, going, "You were so preoccupied with whether or not you could, you didn't stop to think about whether or not you should." And that was Will.
It was very, very good. And I think the only like if there had been space or the need for more like angst in Megan's backstory, it would have been to know that like all of that doubt she dealt with like in puberty. Like her backstory was very much one of like Ender's Game, where like she realized who she was and struggled with all of that like very early on. Like the kid that like got into a fight and finished the fight so no one would ever fight her again, kind of like those sort of like set piece moments. So like reaching Megan as a person that like had accepted everything by adulthood, it felt really nice. It also felt like Abria just being like, I'm very used to demigods, so like I'm super into what we're doing. We ding our ascendance moves and then we go home. So having like literal Abria like interference problems with coming into like a group's different dynamic actually felt like a really easy way to show that sort of disconnect between
It was
an
nice to
established
not have
group.
it. We had a group of thinkers, and it was nice to have someone who's like, I'm just going to put my foot on the gas pedal, and we're just going to see where the car goes.
Yep. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah. I will say, though, as Harold for the game, and to go back to the initial question about using a game that's incomplete for a 20 episodes of an actual play, it shows a lot of what the game can be and what it will be, and it makes me incredibly excited. I do, however, wish I had sat down with you guys beforehand and been like, so what do you think your ascension move should be? I feel like that could have taken the game in a wildly different direction, but shoulda, coulda, woulda.
It would have taken it in a different direction, which itself is good. It means that the game mechanics are like steering narrative in meaningful ways. It's doing what it says on the tin.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have just had a completely different story. This one was really good. Changing it would have produced a different one, but these players are all amazing, and you're amazing, so it would also be good, just a different flavor.
Yeah. Agree. Hard agree. We've got a lot of questions to get through, folks.
Oh dear.
So let's do this. Gray Day asks, this is a super emotional show. Were there any particular events in game that impacted you most as a player/person?
Ooh.
Can I start? It's cool
Sure.
if I start. The talk with Flynn and his mom. After that episode, I needed to lie down. Like, for some reason, that moment was the one that was like, oh, God. Oh, Christ. Ah, geesh. Ooh. Because I don't know why I even made it happen, other than I feel like it's important for someone who's about to become effectively immortal to have like one more moment with the person that brought them into the world. Like it was, ugh. So that was my moment of, I need a cigarette. I don't smoke, but I need a cigarette now.
Mine is still going to be the singular use of Bella's ascendance move. Like, not that I'm like super horny for mechanics, but I am. But the ability to, use a mechanic effectively as a dramatic beat that did so like cleanly and clearly like resolve and address like individual characters' arcs was such a good capstone to a hyper emotionally intelligent character and emotionally intelligent player that sort of had seen what we had been doing the entire time and offered this beautiful olive branch of resolution for a lot of characters with where they were going next.
There's a bit in I know we've been talking a lot about Abria bringing Megan in and just like what up fucks, I'm gonna punch things. But like in season 2,
I want that on a t-shirt.
there was a bit in like the first half-ish, I want to say, where like we just got done like just beating the shit out of some stuff, and Megan was like, hell yeah, I just won a bunch of fight, I'm covered in blood, most of it my own, and I don't give a fuck. And then her mom showed up and she was like, hey, you haven't called. And she was like, Mom, what? Ugh, yeah, no, I'm fine, go away. God.
Steven's very good at bringing in parents and like very good foils to like present this opposite view of like, I don't know, like to pay you proper homage, and it won't be enough, but to say that like you are also like hyper cognizant of like seeing characters high moments and like when they're in their stride, and subverting it with characters that like force them to address the person they've become and make them either justify it or question it. And doing that via a lot of like parental figures has just been amazing to watch the whole time.
I guess for me, it's because to me, every game is about something. And I know that's really, I kind of want to slap myself and shove myself in a locker for saying that. But like games like Mass is about growing up. Games like Monster Hearts is about realizing who you are in relation to other people. Games like Dungeons and Dragons is about, well, it's about the escapism, and it's also about sort of this idea of conquering the unconquerable. And I'm not going into it. There's a lot of papers on D&D out there. But for me, Demigods is a game about self-realization and what that means, and how you have to come to terms with where you are, where you're going, and where you've been. And I felt like parents were a great way to sort of be like, and this is where you started.
I mean, that's Demigods is a game about a bunch of people who have really weird parents having to cope with that.
There's a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, shout out to Eric, because I feel like the scene that Steven talked about up top between Flynn and his mother was super emotional. And then I think the callback to it when Flynn and Megan were talking was the moment that like both Megan and then Abria as Megan like had that realization of just what that meant to a character like Flynn, who does not as readily show his emotional state and is just so deeply internal. And it was just very cool. It's like, oh, fuck. All right, well, I thought I was the one that was going to avoid feels this week, but no.
This is New Pantheon, baby. We do not avoid the feels here.
Fact.
We revel in them.
Aside, y'all played the like pre-ascendance emotions so beautifully. I think because both Megan and Flynn were fairly far along. Like they were both 2 ticks into Ascendance move coming into the season. And so the entire season, you're sitting like right on the edge of glory. There you go. And so we got to see an emotional arc that is usually fairly compressed in these stories, because the different, like typically 2 moves into 3 is like not a whole season, not a whole third of the whole arc. But both of you took so much time with it that we got to see the ups and downs and process of acceptance and how that looked different in different characters, and sort of took what is usually compressed and expanded it out and explored it in depth, and did it so beautifully, both of you. It was rude.
I can't speak for Abria, but for me, it was like, because it became so easy to be Flynn, because you show up, cause mischief, lie about things, and then y'all would come with like these things, like your mom shows up or something, like have an emotional scene, and it's like I've been for weeks now, 3 hours a week, every week, just been lying and being mischieful, and now I have to try not to be, and so like that's also like, because that's what Flynn is doing. Flynn is like, I've fallen so deep in this, how do I turn it off for a moment?
Yeah, you speak for me on this one. I show up to punch stuff.
How about you, Aki? What moment was emotional, like stuck with you? I mean, you had so few and far between. I know it's going to be hard, but like.
I'm not answering this question just because I'm already really emotional over here.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry. All right.
Well, can I brag about like your character? I think it was super. It felt really good and really right that like our sort of like final scenes were wrapped around your character Will, like Will as like the emotional core and the person that like chose a different path. And for a character that like, man, let me be super honest. I play a lot of RPGs and I think I'm a very good player. I could not do what you did across this campaign and
God, no.
live in a like not just an emotional state where you were constantly like leaning on dramatic scenes and having like highly tense, highly like emotionally like draining interactions with everyone. Like your connective tissue was fundamentally dramatic, but and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in the like drama. But having to live in a state for an entire season where you didn't feel good, like Flynn was figuring their shit out, and in having to do so, had to live in the part like in that fact that like. Whereas for Will, even sorry, I said Flynn. For Will, even if it was just like if our season was just maybe a week or two, you had to live in it for 10 weeks. And I just generally, I am so floored by the ability to like open yourself up emotionally and constantly go back to the well and pick the scab and like keep bleeding to like properly execute on what was a very difficult storyline for Will, and then get to a good place and have us all sort of like recenter around that at the end and say like, I'm so sorry I wasn't there while you were going through it, but I'm so happy to see you come through the other side. Felt like, I mean, if that was hard, I can't imagine what actually having to like go through it was like. So just fucking shout out to that.
Sorry, I just I was checking Twitter to see if we had anything new, and it said where I live, and then I clicked on it, and it said, "Oh, a new fire has erupted," and so I peeked out my window, and oh, yeah, yep, there's a big old fire out there. Okay, anyway, here we go.
We're neighbors. Should I be concerned?
I'm not your neighbor anymore.
Oh, well, that guy's.
Yeah, so you're
in
fine.
that case,
You're
then-
fine.
What's going on on Twitter?
Whatever, who cares?
Yeah. Thanks everybody. So anyway, Warrior of Books asks, was there a NPC that you would have liked to see more of? Toby, the Glamazons, Grandpa Nathan?
I feel like we got a lot with Tuck, and I liked all our interactions with Tuck. But I would have loved to see Little John. Like, we kind of just dropped Little John, which was kind of both my and Steven's fault, because we didn't because Little John came at the end of season 2, and then season 3 started, and Little John was there, but then we went to the hotel, and I didn't bring it up there. Steven didn't bring it up. It just so like the whole idea of Flynn building a collective, a pantheon of people to be under him kind of fell by the wayside. But I also think that worked narratively in the end, because I think he gave up the trappings of what he was supposed to be and became more of what he wanted to be.
I mean, so they cited the Glamazons, and the truth is that that was mechanically encouraged by Scion, and even to some extent in Demigods as well. Like the Muse specifically will like have a lot of people. There's like the celebrity gift. There's although there is protege, that's singular. But after one of their ascendance moves is like people will flock to them for autographs. It's very much a thing about a Muse to have a lot of people. But that is a cruel and unusual thing to ask of a GM, because now it's like you have a bunch of characters completely precluding any possibility of rich characterization, because there are just too many, and we're on a clock, and PCs get priority in characterization time. So I think it's a situation where the nature of the medium means that it was good that we focused in a little tighter. Like, would I have wanted to? Sure, but only if time didn't exist, and it does. So I think the way that they were handled was overall the necessary choice for how that works, and was honest to the nature of the muse and how that works, like that you have those people without getting it into a place where it would have interfered with running the game smoothly and with giving enough time to move the plot payload.
Overwatch reference and I clocked it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the NPCs, I agree 100%. I thought that they were very well woven into the dynamics of the party and each of you individually. And when they showed up, it was never like because oftentimes, a lot of times, NPCs can be that singular kind of person that's just like, they run the town guard, or they are a massive, they're the big bad or something like that. Like they're either just tiny nothings or they are huge, important. They're the king and you've got to do what they say or whatever.
Or the GM's exposition avatar.
Yeah,
of like,
exactly.
Here's what it actually is.
God
and
knows
it's so...
I had those.
Yeah.
Feel attacked by
like,
that.
My thought is actually no. Like, no one was leading us around by the nose through the Hotel California.
Right.
True.
Right. Exactly.
Like, telling us here's what's up and here's like, hey guys, I have an idea. The thing that GM sometimes need to do to move the players along. You were very like graceful in how you handled your NPCs to not make them GM vehicles and to remain persons. But I interrupted you, Don. I apologize.
Oh no, that's you were saying exactly what I wanted to say. It was that sort of I think it was certainly Stephen, but it was not just Stephen being able to bring them to life and interact, but it was also you as players not treating them as exposition machines and going, okay, tell me what I need to do. What is the information you're here to provide? But just going like, hey, how you doing? What's going on?
Which is something that they definitely could have fallen into, because especially with like Ahoro and Ajapa in Scion, they are literally exposition machines. Like that's how we used them in the first season a lot. I mean, we used them for much more than that, but it'd be like, I don't know what this thing is. Roll Ajapa's like ability to know things, like, or whatever, and then like they would, and we would find out about things, but we've turned them into more than just that.
Worry of Books asks me what was my favorite moment of the show, and thank you very much for that question. I'm going to have a cop-out answer to this. First of all, my brain never, even games that I'm in, does not keep moments in there, so I couldn't tell you. But I really enjoyed the personal, like what we were just talking about, but just how easily characters flowed from scene to scene. And to me, it was really kind of a masterclass in role playing, but it was, I mean, I definitely pulled a lot from watching all of y'all play, but having that, like, having the nature of characterization be that you're not necessarily all fitting a archetype in the party, but you are a family of sorts. You are friends who are working together towards a common goal, and taking away a lot of the like, and Powered by the Apocalypse is very good at as being a system for encouraging this, but it's like, you're not like, we're going to find the next party of monsters and go fight it, and then we're going to find this loot over here, and then this is going to come and stuff. It's just like, we're going to talk and we're going to figure things out, and then we're going to go, and if we have to hit something, we have to hit something, and it goes. But it's what I really like about these things is the of these games, of these types of games, is the cinematic nature of them. And you'll hear me say this on many things. Wildcards is very. I appreciate the cinematic nature of Wildcards. Salt Bay is very cinematic. It's something that I really love to do here at Saving Throw. But I feel like New Pantheon is very cinematic in the sense that it it has that fantastical nature to it because everyone's playing a god, but also it's so human in the relationships. And so I've always enjoyed that sort of dynamic with this. So that's probably my favorite. One of my favorite bits about this show is that. So,
That's
there
what
you
I've
go.
learned, like in transition, like because I haven't been playing RPGs long, but going from like Dungeons and Dragons to more story-driven games, like a game like Powered by the Apocalypse or Scion or any of the like World of Darkness games, like there aren't like a lot of them don't have like a lot of stats. Like you don't have hit points and this is how many damages you roll when you do. It's all very much you hit it and you roll on this and you exchange harm, whatever that means. Like so there's not. I think a lot because Dungeons and Dragons is a combat miniatures game that they shoehorn roleplay into.
Yeah, we could talk a lot about that. DJ Who DJ Who asks, what pantheon would you pick, Dom? I would pick either the Egyptian pantheon or the Tuatha De Danann, the Irish pantheon.
My favorite, my personal favorite.
Or stay with me here, come be Greek, because the water is fun.
Oh yeah, no.
And so are the gods.
Hey!
Hey!
High five!
I mean, name drop, but when I was in Egypt, and going to all of these temples, and because I'm a huge mythology buff, and my two big mythology things were Greek and Egyptian, but I loved the stories behind the Egyptian gods and how they just sort of like came out of nowhere, really. Like they're just things that, I mean, as many gods, they served a purpose, something that you wanted to have happen and you wanted to have some control over. And so you create a god that can be fickle, and then you don't have to, that's religion. It's, oh yeah, maybe that's what happened. They just were not happy that time.
Spark of divinity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Like gods as dice is wild.
Yeah,
like, does it
exactly.
happen? I don't know. There's a guy over there. His head is a crocodile, and he says maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wrap this gem around your body, and we'll see what happens when you die.
Einstein's like, God doesn't play dice with the universe. The mythological pantheons are like, I'm a bear.
Yeah, I think what's great about like the Egyptian, like, because I also like I remember being very into the Egyptian, and I was originally thinking maybe Egypt is because it's of the non-Western like pantheons, it is one of the most researched and known to like Western people, which is what so it stands out because it's like not based on the things that everything else we know is based on, but we know so much about it, so we have so much information about it.
It's because Europeans used to eat mummies.
Yeah.
I still, I know it's true. It's just so gross.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Oh, hey, European history in a single sentence.
There you go.
I only had a little bit of mummy when I was over there. It was fine. No, I did have pigeon. That was really good. Anyway, yeah, no, Egyptian, and the thing, well, never mind. This, I can get into a whole religious thing about how Egyptian gods were sort of like, basically, you just created what you needed at the time, and then you forced people to give you things for it, to make that person happy. And if the thing that you told them would happen didn't happen, then clearly they didn't give you enough. And it's just such a, why I don't like religion. Anyway,
it's called a pyramid scheme for a fucking reason, Dom.
You didn't. How dare?
Multi-level marketing. Ho.
I was today years old when I realized that that's why it was called pyramid schemes.
I don't believe that's actually why it's called a pyramid scheme, but I'm so happy with this idea that I'm just running with it.
I told an unnecessary lie. I get a thread for that.
Take a thread.
Yeah.
Take a thread.
Warrior of Books asks, if the characters played demigods, what playbooks would they play as? And Stephen, you and I can answer this as well.
Ooh.
Megan plays the warrior because she knows what.
I actually think Megan would make a fantastic Verdant.
Ooh, I think she'd just be like, oh man, a lot of these are about healing.
No. You would play it the opposite of how Aki played it, where Aki chose to ignore one side. Megan would just embrace that side and ignore the other side.
I mean, the actual answer is Megan would probably play the elemental if she didn't play the warrior, because I took a lot of like level ups from the elemental, because the elemental is closer to that barbarian berserker, just a problem that shows up, and Megan would be very here for that.
I would Will would probably have played the only other demigods playbook that I've had the chance to play, which was the artisan. That's probably what Will would do.
I like that.
Yeah, but they would still be a healer. All of the stuff that they would make would be like healing potions and shit.
I don't know what class it would be, but Flynn would definitely like min-max something so that he could be so he could do everything he wanted to do and frustrate whoever was running the game the most possible.
I'm gonna go and say
Celestial.
Tuck is running this game.
Yeah,
Makes
that's
sense.
why I was like Celestial, because most
Celestial.
of Celestial is like, I already know how this happens and I win, so why even bother?
I look into the future. I know what happens. I shoot my gun. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Els plays the trickster. It's
Ooh.
social, but you just do the lying, and it's just the deception check instead of persuasion check. That's like the difference between how Bells approaches the muse versus the trickster. End of the day.
I like it.
Amazing.
There was more overlap there, I think, than either wanted to admit.
Oh no, Flynn and Bells were more alike than either of them would ever be comfortable
Why
talking
Bells
about.
was so uncomfortable.
That's why they were by a wide margin my favorite like relationship in season 3. Like
When we finally got
hell
that,
yeah.
so sad, and it was just like, shit, we were.
Oh no. Oh no, we're friends.
It's like when you realized you and your sibling, you're like, oh, I guess we do like each other. Damn it.
Gross.
If they had gone just a little farther, though, in like connecting, imagine what havoc they could have wrought.
Oh
like,
my
it's
God.
just safety of the world that they were as distant as they were, because like everything that Flynn has and access to the voice.
Yeah, it would basically like Flynn would make Bells the new god of the world, if not the universe. Like, and Bells would convince everyone, and Flynn would lie to the other half that wasn't convinced.
Yeah.
So
I
in
would
short, you guys make a cult.
I would like to redo the season and make this happen, please. Megan
no,
just
what's
dives
that?
out of the way and makes this happen.
Forget Hotel California.
Yeah.
Season
No.
3. Let's start a cult.
We reached
Megan-
$20,000. We redo the season.
Megan's the hand of Bells, who punishes those who don't get in line.
The bell ringer.
You guys are making way too much sense, and it makes me very uncomfortable.
I like to imagine that Will is the resistance.
Not out of like some moral righteousness, just like, no, I
No.
know them. No.
Well, the thing that I think that was interesting to observe both as a player and as a character was the way that the moment Will stepped out of the scene, these three found a rhythm that never existed before with the four of them. And being so out of sync and being so out of step with the rest of the group is a lot of what convinced them, actually, it is time for me to just bow out because I don't fit here. So
I was not a player in this game, but if I were, I suppose I would go with elemental or celestial. I like to smash things, so that sounds fun. And yeah, Celestial would be really cool too, because I don't know, it sounds interesting. Anyway,
Ron was good at smashing, so
Abria, you
Ron
looked
was
like
good.
you had an opinion.
I always do, but I will save it for later. But I do want to talk more about like the like shifting dynamics of season 3, but we can get to it later. It'll come up again.
all right.
Okay. Worry of Books asks, how did you all decide your domains, and what would have Will's been if they had ascended?
I honestly never thought about it because I knew for a fact that Will would never ascend. So I never put any thought into what it would be.
All right.
I think like the idea of Flynn being sort of like internet troll was interesting at first, but as it progressed and his like he became less and less like internet based, and like then his technology was break. I think it, especially with like with Bells, is like be the best version of yourself. It became more about bringing balance and justice more than, and also seeing Bells like get away from being the god of social media to being just like something different.
Yeah, Bells was headed in an entirely different direction and is really just a product of listening to wherever the plot is going, in part because they were built around love and beauty, kind of big picture, but definitely initial concept leaned more into the beauty side of things, not only in terms of like the nature of their social media celebrity and all of that, but also because they were an explicitly trans femme character, and for that character to be a god of beauty was particularly important to me in a world where trans femme have such an uphill climb to feel that in themselves. So for them to be a divine like signifier of that, of arriving at that place, always informed the character. But as things moved on, and as we saw how Bells interacted in the story and how they developed, love was an overarching theme in some sense or another. And so I wanted to find a domain that resonated with that. And it was only in the back half of season 3 that acceptance of lost love was the sensible move for them. Like the thing that fit the Sudoku puzzle of like everything we had seen in the story, and that would like give some catharsis to the themes that we had seen, not just in the character backstory, but in the story itself. So that was very much just a responsive development that was like, okay, this is the domain now. Yeah, it is. But I liked the way it resolved for them. That felt good.
Eric, what was, if you were to put into words Flynn's domain, what would it have been? Like,
I mean, I think like Abria literally asked me this when we finished the game. She like texted me, "What was Flynn's domain?" And I said justice, and she's like, "Figured." And I think that's like because it at first he was like just like the guy on Twitter being like, you know, like all cops are bastards, but like doing nothing about it. But then realizing that that's not enough. Like just having an opinion on Twitter isn't enough. So then he started to actively, like I think in between season 2 and 3 in that like year, he became less about like, you know, owning people on Reddit, and more about like we opened with him like actively like punishing someone he felt did wrong in a place. So I think like he started to transition to more of, you know, taking an active role in writing injustice.
I think everyone answered that one. Dorklord Canada, if you had to pick the Pantheon you think your castmates belong to, what would they be?
they're all pretty and talented. They're all Greek. It's all Greek to me.
Well, I know my special interest. Am I supposed to also know things outside my special interest?
Yeah.
I'm in trouble.
Well,
Wait,
I
what
don't
was
know.
it?
That's a
Go ahead.
hard question.
I mean,
Very hard,
I
actually.
feel like I'm a very unique person. I'm a straight white man who talks about Star Wars and comic books on the internet. So I feel like that's definitely a domain that wouldn't get a lot of play.
I have no idea what my answer is.
Self-roast.
Damn it, Eric. You were funny and knocked my answer out of my brain.
I actually think Eric would make a great member of the Tuatha De Danann.
Ooh.
I believe
I love
Sam
their last
would...
album. I said I love their last album.
Oh my god.
I only like their early shit.
I'm shoving both of you into lockers.
I
The
liked
last
them
time
before
that
they were
happens, we
cool.
got a whole romantic plot line. You did this.
Stinky. I think Sam would actually make a wonderful member of the... Actually, I do think they'd make a great member of the Greco-Roman Pantheon.
Thanks for
Abria,
telling me I'm a terrible person who
At least
hits
you're
real
fun.
hard and has phenomenal cosmic power. I accept this.
I actually think Aki would make a fantastic member of the Celestial Bureaucracy.
Ooh.
That is the Pantheon of China. And I actually feel like Abria would make a wonderful member of the Japanese Pantheon.
Aw, hell yeah. Amaterasu, what's up, girl? Let's go.
The jubilation of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just vibing in a big robe. I'm very here for this. Thank you.
I would
Yeah.
love to be part of like some Catholic pantheon, but not like the actual Catholic pantheon. One of the many like interpretations in anime where it's like so weird, like they only barely understand it and they turn
Where the Pope is a motorcycle.
yeah, or angels or giant weird kaiju that attack, or like just any of the other like insane like
Except for that is actually biblically accurate.
It is.
Angels are kaiju.
yeah, it is.
That's more like Jewish like text though than like trad Old Testament. They're just like, I guess some extra wings. I don't know.
There's
We'll wait for the
a whole lot of
Jesus
Mishnah
part.
in between here and kaiju. Yes.
Yeah.
Fine.
I will
Now I
write
wanna
myself
rewatch
for the
Eva.
like modern science pantheon.
Hell yeah. I think I gotta go with like modern interpretations of like that Yoruba descended pantheon, because that like definitely rolls through my family. Like I have a bunch of like Huduns on my mom's side of the family, and just getting into that idea of, I don't know, social justice as like the righteousness of ancestors feels very good to me. I want that.
Nice.
Fun again asks, Panthadog or Dogtheon?
Dogtheon.
Puptheon.
Oh,
Ooh,
Pantheon.
there we go. Damn.
I'm a cat person.
I think Puptheon
Uh,
also works.
Mhm.
There's a structure to doing these kind of portmanteau based puns, based on sonants and like letters. You need to have at least one, or it doesn't work. Either the vowel has to have roughly the same sound, or you have to have at least one letter in common, and then you can substitute very comfortably. And there's the formula to a pun alert.
Yeah,
There
because
you
now
go.
I'm thinking about New Hamptheon, where it's hamsters and pigs.
Or we could be species agnostic and just go New Pantheon, and then you can pick what animal you want.
As long as it has paws. What if you want to be snack?
Ah, damn it. I think snack tummy counts as a super paw, if you will.
It's
It's
just
just a
it's
long
all paw.
paw?
It's toe beans all the way down.
I'm not comfortable with
Toe
anything
Beans All the
in
Way
this.
Down
Yeah.
was the 5th track on my first album.
It was a very weird Shel Silverstein book.
Warrior of Books. What playbook would you be or want to be? We might have answered this kind of. The
I think we
person,
did.
Not a character. Yeah,
Yeah.
we kind of answered this.
I mean, those
Yeah.
are our characters, not
Yeah.
us.
Right. Yeah, what would you want to be if you could be one? But I feel
Yeah.
like we kind of.
I'll answer just very quickly and say
Sure.
Celestial.
There you go.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind being an artisan. Just be like, yeah, I just make it. I'll just make something.
I'd be the trickster.
Arcane.
I mean, I have a type. I'm not afraid to admit that healers are where I live, and like the Verdant is the most capable healer in the play, like of all the playbooks, and so there we go.
All right.
Arcoit Landry says, how many times did Steven pick a particular hat to go with an episode's theme?
Ooh.
0. I gotta be honest, the hats, I wear hats. It is my thing. There are very few photos of me without a hat. It's kind of like seeing Bigfoot. You can claim it, you won't have photographic evidence, and if you do have photographic evidence, it won't be good photographic evidence. So, like, I was wearing this before we got started.
We are just about 170 away from unlocking new
You're
Pantheon.
kidding me.
So if you can bring people in here, you know, every $1 or 100 bits goes towards unlocking these things. So even $1 gets us towards those goals. So
Tweet it out, people.
Thank you very much to all of you who have tuned in and are interested in watching us do a little pup-themed episode.
I have a question then. Actually, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I want to interrupt. Maybe then just as a little bit of a teaser in order to whip up, you know, a little bit of a frenzy, which dog would you be with if you were a dog in New Pantheon? Like which breed of dog would you play? Or which breed of dog, like give a general list of breeds of dogs you would consider playing so that, you know, we still have that to hold on to if and when we break this goal.
This is for you two. I'm running the stupid thing apparently, so.
I mean, I would have to play as Palm. I loved Palm so much and would play as a little black Pomeranian. Still the warrior.
I'd probably play as Toby just because like being that just like old like lazy dog with all the wrinkles and just like I think that would be an interesting just being someone who's tired all the time.
Well, what's interesting about that is that like nobody would look at Toby and go, oh yes, that is a trickster god who lies and is terrible all the time. Not all the time, is always very lovely. But yeah, I think Ijapa and Ehoro are obviously not dogs, and so I would be playing in a very different sort of setting. But if I were playing Will as a dog, specifically, I would probably go with something like a beagle or a golden retriever, like just the most like, or like some sort of oh frack me.
I always saw them as a Shiba Inu.
No. Shiba Inus are like yappy and annoying.
Yeah,
Like,
they talk a lot.
They're
Don't you besmirch our Sun Kaiju like that.
I love Shiba Inus, but the Shiba Inus are 100% not Will as on a personality base like level at all.
I don't
like
know dogs.
They're incredibly high maintenance, like kind of I mean, they're beautiful and lovely dogs, but they're like, and it's not like Will isn't high maintenance and needy, but this is a different level with Shiba Inus, like just a very different level. We're talking about if we like what kind of dog breeds we would go for in New Pantheon. And even though we've kind of pre-established that a few of us are playing our actual pets and not our own characters or ourselves, I was thinking about how which breeds of dogs if I were playing Will and not Ijapa or Horror in this setting, that's what I'm just catching Sam up. But yes, I pitched something along the lines of like a beagle or a golden retriever, like something like that. Sam has ideas or thoughts.
I mean, I'm just thinking them through because, like, you know, you have Flynn, who's a fairly apparent terrier, like literally bred for the purpose of going into a foxhole and say, hey, what's up? What's up? What's up? You have a problem? We want to take this outside. And then they take it outside. And then not the terrier, but the hounds are like, hey, what's up? And the notion of your job to like aggro, but then bam, afterward, very much appeals. I feel a strong like Belgian Malinois thing out of Megan because they have too much energy. They have to put it towards something, and they are like absurdly athletic. Like half the time you see the dog that like goes up a 30-foot climbing wall, it's gonna be a Maligator or it's gonna be a Pity.
Yeah.
Which also is like not a bad choice because like there's just the effusiveness, the ebullience, the like pit bull in a china shop vibe there too.
That's how our chocolate lab was growing up. She was just like, I don't know what I am. Push everything over.
But
Have
I mean,
you
there's
all
like
seen a cane corso? Because
No.
that is my
Yes!
actual answer.
Yeah.
Imagine a pit bull, but bred to scare you like through the gate. It's a giant pit that's just
Dogs
like, oh,
scare
I'm
me.
for a talk. This is one you don't want to meet. Like, I love cane corsos, and I'm just like, oh,
there's
feel
no level
away.
of advanced enough. And
Yeah.
then like I think
Belle's the poodle.
maybe one of the like I feel the draft breeds like the Bernese Mountain Dogs maybe actually for Will.
Hell yeah.
Like they're often pretty often like nanny dogs. They are hard working, like just really strong work ethic, but also just like a nice level of person connected, but not like asocial dogs. They're like solid and good with folks. And they're pretty.
Aw.
Wait, what did we decide for Bells? Because I would like to
Poodle.
We haven't.
No, I don't
Not
think
a
No.
poodle.
I,
How do we
This is
feel
not-
about a Sammy?
Sammy, maybe. I was thinking
I
maybe
don't know
like
what
a
this is.
classical collie, like a lassie.
Oh, yeah.
So the correct answer is Papillon.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Like just
Can someone
high
tweet me
grooming
pictures of
intensity,
these
but very
things?
cute. Oh yes,
Oh, yeah,
absolutely
okay.
Papillon. Like clever little dog, very social, very pretty, and does like just very good little trick dog.
I think, yeah, I think our current dog, it has some Papillon because of similar like face and fur, and she's like very quiet and very easygoing, but very demanding and very picky about things.
So what you're saying that is in dog form, Will would be the big and Bells would be the small.
Well, that's
I
a
guess
ship.
so. I guess I play
strange.
a lot of Papillon too, because I think Lacey was a Papillon. Thesser from chat would have to correct me on that one way or the other.
I don't.
But very different flavors of the same dog breed.
I also like Flynn as a corgi because corgis and little hats makes me happy. I don't know.
And this one's
dogs.
so low to the ground that
You
it
just
wouldn't
want a
get hit in
corgi,
the
man.
chest.
Speaking of Thesser, do you think your new Pantheon ever has demigod kids? Or do you think they'd adopt demigods in from other Pantheons?
Okay, so I have thoughts about this because a thing I was extremely thinking about since technically in the finale, my character ascended first was, and both of these were I had to have tried to like have conversations with players beforehand, was to backwards reach out to Grandpa Nathan and make him a demigod of Megan once she ascended, if that was something he would have wanted. Was actually my very first thought, that he was someone that was so close to like that entire like world, but never got to be part of it. But I actually really like when Aki said that like now that Will had sort of like moved on, like he was beginning to just like restore, like his humanity was restored, and I didn't really want to like mess with that in any way. But I feel like Megan's like first choice would have been like, yo, Grandpa Nathan, I need someone to keep doing stuff in the world, but like come play for my team. Will's out the game and that's totally fine, but like I need somebody. You in. And that was actually like my first choice.
Will
I mean,
wasn't a part of the Pantheon, but they had kids.
Oh.
They had kids and grandkids. I imagine that one of them eventually took on the mantle. And if Will didn't ascend to the new Pantheon, it's very possible that instead of Will, it would have been one of their children or their grandchildren. So like the thing that was most important to Will is that regardless of whether I ascend or not, I want to make sure that there's the possibility that somebody from my line will get the opportunity to, and that only happens if I actually have children. But I would even go so far to say that they were like a foster parent, they adopted, they might have had a biological kid or two. And so the other thing that would have been really important to me if we had gone a little bit further down the line of like what Will's life looked like is the person who ascended or eventually became the scion of Aja wouldn't necessarily have been the person that was blood related to them. It could have transferred through like the familial bond as opposed to just like through blood. Like I just like the idea of it being open to that, especially since we'd sort of established that the Lily of the Valley and the Fire and the Hill were not blood related to the Pantheon, but got kind of brought in. And so this idea of extending adoption into uh, in in that way as well kind of appeals to me. Is that the person who ascends into the new Pantheon as the scion of Aja, as the scion of Will, maybe not necessarily blood related to Will as a general rule.
If Megan and Flynn had a kid, that would have been a full god. So
Hold on, when though? There was some lag time between Flynn's ascension. Also a thing Megan thought about.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, do I make a demigod while we have a little bit of like, hey, you're human. I have a weird idea.
I think Flynn like wouldn't
did
be
not occur to me.
he wouldn't be totally against the idea of having children. I just think it would have taken him a while to work up to it because he would have been like, I don't want to be my dad. I don't want to be my dad. I don't want to be my dad.
Yeah. Also the idea of like having a like human descended child and then like ascension and you're like, all right, you're on your own. We'll see you in a bit, I guess, maybe would have sucked so much and would not.
Because now Flynn has a sister and he's got a niece, and so he has a line of people that are related to him through blood that he can bring into the fold, and he's already got Tuck and Little John and probably other merry people to join in his escapades.
All right, y'all. We've got 8 questions remaining.
Oh dear. All right.
Our Kreutz Landry asks, and we have about $170 left or so in unlocking the new Pantheon. Given Powered by the Apocalypse's focus on narrative consequences on partial failures or misses, do you see the table rerolls as changing the general arc/feel of the character's competence?
Oh, absolutely. By definition, like the rerolls made it so. How many times, Sam, did you roll butts and you had to kind of like, let me try that again?
I mean, I mostly rolled with Fate's favor, so
Yeah, that's true.
fewer than you'd think.
Yeah.
Really. And it was really just conversions from failure more than partial. Like when you have a ton of rerolls, and I've noticed this across many games at Saving Throw, there is a certain secondary level of whether it's a good story idea to spend this meta currency. Do we want to let it ride? Because you can do a zillion things and just always succeed because Saving Throw community is super generous. And that's not a good thing for your character. So like, I don't think I would have ever re-rolled a partial because partials are delicious. It's just that Bells didn't do that. Because, Fat Mod will like just give you so much.
Yeah, I feel like I've noticed this in all the shows I've done. Like it is like I like failure as a narrative storytelling device. I think it's important in storytelling to have characters fail. And I think in all the shows that I've been a part of here in my many years here, everyone's done a very solid job of using rerolls for like when they narratively make sense, like to do a hit or something like that sometimes when it matters. But like I will usually use all of my rerolls for the stupidest, most inconsequential things. Like it's important. Like it's certainly a balance that we as the players at the table have done a pretty good job in figuring out.
And
on
nice
the
to
other
have
hand,
the option of just like Not today, Satan. This is the wrong structural time for everything to just go down the toilet on top of going down the toilet on top of going down the toilet.
That
Now we win.
That said, I feel as though I had kind of consistently throughout all 3 seasons the most middle of the road roles of anyone at the table, because there are a lot of, like, I had to roll for everything. I was one of the playbooks at the table that everything I wanted to do I had to roll for. Like, I couldn't just do a thing and succeed at it, and also my dice hated me, and so I almost never rolled godlike ever. Like, I think I got godlike maybe a handful of times. So like, I was the person who kind of like ran the law of averages as a general rule throughout the game. And like, sometimes that is what it is. So I almost never really had a choice about whether or not I had to go into a failure, because I failed so often or only partially succeeded. So yeah, it was a very interesting kind of spread of that. So
what do you do to your dice, incidentally? Like, I know Cass gets to ask questions for each other. Anki, do you yell at them or something?
No, I let them, they have a very comfortable life. I put them in the very finest of homes. They're they're spoiled, and that's the problem.
Yeah, you got to teach them business. You got to get dice jail. You got to put them in dice jail.
They have a very cushy life with me. I take very, very good care of my dice.
Restorative justice.
I see your dice jail and raise you eat cube-shaped things in front of them so they think they're not safe. It's
dark, but I appreciate it.
I love a dark detail.
I've spent all this time trying to crack the game system so like the roll won't screw me over one way or the other. The dice just do whatever they want and I ignore them. But
I think I'm also
innovative.
I think I'm also the only person at the table who never took their +4 advancement. Like, I never got to +4 medal. Oh, you didn't take it either?
I never got enough advancements for it.
Okay, there we go. So
ran out of things to take above the line or below the line.
Hold on, I want to go back because I think I was just out of things.
Yeah, I was taking.
I was not out of things yet.
I had to go back and start taking the +1s because like I was out of things besides change your playbook, which I didn't want to do.
I had the same thing. The only thing I had left was change your playbook to a new one. Oops.
Every single advancement that I made, I had to do in a notepad doc because I didn't have my physical sheet anymore. I had to find it in my photos of pictures Dom took of the sheet from the studio, because that's where Will's sheet has been all this time, and I guess now it is in Dom's possession, as opposed to but yes. So
just print out a new one
because I don't have a printer.
Ah, shit! I would have brought you a printed copy. That's my excuse to say hi and just yell at you from 6 feet away.
But we also didn't have form fillable versions of the sheets, so I couldn't. No. So like I legitimately only had photos of Will's sheets, like, and no actual like form fillable version of the sheets to fill out. I like every single episode included me opening my web captioner, my Zoom, 4 photos, and the PDF of the quick starter. And that's why I was always looking over here, because that was where everything was. It wasn't down in front of me.
Warrior of Books asks, reminds Stephen, don't you remember when Bells went to Olympus? We met Hera there, and it was amazing. She called Zeus out for the end of the world plan.
That's right.
File not found. I apologize.
She was like, Megan went up to her and she was just like basically drinking, and she was just like sloshed and didn't care anymore.
I love the Greeks.
All right.
The Greeks love you.
They do.
Art of Handprints. Do you feel like there are more stories that you would want to tell in a demigod's world, or are you done with this topic? Because there are always more pantheons to play with, but that doesn't mean that there is something different to share.
I think there's plenty of stories to be told in this world.
Yeah, I think all of us were just coming, demigods especially, like it was clear even when we picked this over Scion, it was very clear that this is not a system for elongated play. Now, your characters are always semi-impermanent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I personally feel like the world is wider than our view of it, and this is a place where, you know, I think your stories, I think the story of Megan and Will and Bells and Flynn, I think those stories are, you know, I think they've hit their end points. But that doesn't mean the stories are over for everyone else. So
Yeah.
There's also this question of like, do people in this group have additional things to say about the notion of divinity and like those kinds of stories? Like, you know, each of these characters was one perspective. Like, you know, Megan's sort of rush for it, and Will's aversion to it. So I think that is what I would look at if I were looking to do more in this world. Do I have something big picture to say about the notion of being, the experience of being a demigod, or an experience that can be described through being a demigod as a metaphor?
Right.
That's where I would look to see about additional things in the world. Those are the questions I would ask.
I think the very first campaign of this I ever played was pretty much the reverse of Megan, was a celestial that had like so much rooting them to like the mundane world, and then the arc was them like untethering themselves from their mortality. And I think Megan was the beginning of an interesting idea about someone who like was not bought in on the idea of being a person and ready for ascension, finding reasons to stay. And I think because like primarily because Flynn and Megan like sort of understood that they would ascend more or less together, I think it was less of that like specific arc. But I think the story I would want to tell next in this system and in this world would be of a person that like is finding reasons to not ascend and fighting that, like kicking and screaming the whole way through. And I think that was a thing that like a lot of you started with that like I haven't played that much with, and I would like be very curious to do more in and around personally.
I think maybe one story that we didn't touch on too much of, at least not until maybe the end of this season, is I don't think any of us ever really played on the idea that there is joy to be found in becoming a god, as opposed to like a feeling of obligation, or a feeling of like like I think that there was a certain level of joy in the way that Megan approached it, but a very different type of joy than I think it's not an immediately translatable as joy. I think somebody who goes into it with a real sense of wonder and like enthusiasm that isn't born out of like something traumatic or negative, or yeah, I don't know. I think I don't exactly know what I'm trying to say here, but like to see somebody who looks at this not as like, oh my God, I'm going to lose touch with my humanity and I'm, going to become this like, sort of uncontrollable thing, but more like, this is a really incredible opportunity. This is a way to like shape and create something different and new. What can I do with that sort of a thing?
Yeah, like there's totally a version of this that's like has that gains that knowledge and then is like, okay, well, I've got to study for this and do it right to have like the best impact, to like be the best god. Like there's a whole, imagine if Hermione Granger were a demigod.
I mean, that was something I feel like Megan almost embraced, because Megan was the only one who seemed to want to do it. Everyone else either
I felt like Megan
avoided
was
it or
little,
fell into it.
Like, yeah, because Flynn was like, I guess this is what I have to do. And I think Megan had a similar energy. It was less, I think Megan was more, Bria can correct me, but always felt like I have no control over this, so I'm just going to enjoy this rather than I'm actively seeking this out.
Yes, absolutely.
Inevitability was really the like driving factor.
Yeah, she had resigned herself to it forever ago, and that didn't mean actively seeking, which was why she always had such a weird reaction to Zeus, was a lot of displaced like anxiety and blame for a like trajectory that she had no control over.
Yeah. So it would be really cool to see somebody like come into this world and take actual like deep joy in all of the potential of what it could be, as opposed to kind of the dread that sort of like overrode a lot of people's journeys through this.
Warrior of Books asks, can we get any hints toward new Pantheon 2021? No.
You'll figure it out.
There will be, we will play a game and there will be dice.
Eric?
Who immediately started thinking of card-based RPGs in order to make that not true. Good, thank you. I appreciate all of
Or
you.
we could play Phoenix Dawn Command and, you know, God, could you imagine new Pantheon as Phoenix Dawn Command? I just want to play Phoenix Dawn Command.
I've been playtesting D&D with dominoes. So how do we feel about dominoes? Don't tell
I'm not old enough for dominoes.
Can I have dominoes and dominoes?
I do want
simultaneously.
And Dom.
Wait, does Dom know?
No.
Dom doesn't know.
Dom doesn't know.
Sojander, or Soyander, maybe.
Soyander.
What weird habit might your character have that wouldn't show up in game?
Megan is an athlete and therefore has a bunch of really stupid athlete like what is it? Superstitions that she never shows, like putting, like, it's the order of putting on clothing that, like, I think is the thing I've always thought about Megan. And then she gets confused when she's like, wings make this harder. Beans. Okay, I gotta start again. And like takes off her like socks and starts over.
Likewise, I think Bells has a lot, grooming rituals are going to very much be a thing, just because not only is there a lot invested into that, because that is a skill that they learned later in life, like not later in life, big picture, but like definitely didn't learn this very young. Clearly, this was a person who got very deeply into it and went just super hard when they had the opportunity to actually do so. Like, went too hard. But in so doing, developed like capital O opinions and like practices about it, where I think at this point, if they were to do something different with how they put themselves together in the day, like it would throw them off so completely.
Will had a very specific way of ordering their lab, and when they stopped working in a lab, their office space, there was just a certain way that everything had to kind of be specifically laid out in order to keep their workflow on target. But I think that something that wouldn't have shown up is that, I think the fact that they were a fidgeter and a lip chewer was pretty apparent, like on screen, but like they were probably always finding little things to mess with whenever they were idle for too long, either like clicking on a keyboard or like, futzing with some odd thing or another, either like maybe like running their hand up and down their suspenders or things like that, just little ways to kind of focus and distract them from whatever it was that they were. Yeah.
I feel like Flynn definitely probably just through home life and whatnot developed some klepto tendencies and would take things that like nothing like super valuable, but things that people would be like, I thought I had a pen, you know, and he would just take those things from people, like, and like people would be like, "What? I can't find my glasses anywhere," like because he would just like take things to to like gain control over people because he had so little control over his life.
Follow-up question to this answer. What is one thing you stole from every other character in the band?
Ooh, okay.
One word answer.
Dignity. No.
He's definitely has several pairs of Will's glasses. He's always been there to like help Will find an old pair or help fund the getting of new pairs, but he definitely has a lot of Will's glasses.
I want to say that he stole those glasses every time he was like, you know what, Will needs a new pair of glasses, because Will would always put off going to the eye doctor, and Flynn always noticed it and was just like, I'm just going to take your glasses and now you have to get new ones and get your eyes checked. So I feel like there was an altruistic reason why he was constantly stealing them.
Yeah. He definitely probably has like a couple of like shirts or something from Megan that are like from like these are like from like not the high school I went to, but like a sports shirt from a different rival high school that I haven't worn in 15 years.
Yes.
And he probably has like just little like makeup sponges and things like that from Bell's, just like things that like were somewhat used but probably would have been used more, like what happened to my eyeliner? I'll open the next one, I guess.
Yep. There are some shades of lipstick that just didn't anymore, and we will never know.
Yeah.
That's the one thing Megan would have like freaked out over, knowing like 2% of things about makeup and like, that color's discontinued. You give it back. You give it back.
All right.
I know that they're a demigod and they can get cool stuff, but like, they don't make this shade anymore. It's blue. It's a blue-based red. You have to give it back.
The animal that it comes from doesn't exist anymore.
Oof. Grim.
R. Croix Landry, getting into the behind the scenes a bit, what sort of safety tools aftercare do you have built into the process that folks may not see?
Well, one, I have an open door policy. If a player has a problem, they are always like, hit me up, we talk. I've been trying to implement more of a one-on-one post-game check-in system with everyone. We also have one thing we now have access to that we didn't have when we had the studio. So, hey, the single good thing to come out of quarantine 2020, the chat. You do not get to see the chat, but we do use the chat for check-ins and general fuckery, as Abria has called it. So those are two of the bigger tools. And we also, still have the X card, and we have the lines and veils we've discussed.
Yeah,
so those
Save
are
and
kind of
Grow
our big ones.
as a whole, we've implemented a lot of like lines and veils and just general practices. And before shows and seasons, we will go over like even one shots. We'll go over here's like just a blank like thing of like here's the general lines and veils that we already have, and if you have anything you want to add to it, you may, and it's anonymous, so anyone can add anything they don't want to be a part of in the show.
Yeah. And by the way, I have been corrected. It was Sam who called the fuckery chat. I apologize. Just got to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah,
I appreciate.
It's been super important to us, and we've been increasing our safety tools throughout every year, every show. We do more and more to try and be better, but it's interesting. We talk about this a lot. We talked about this in the producing RPGs panel at Gen Con before, but it's hard when there's a group of friends that are playing a game together and you all sort of have a general idea of what may be kosher to talk about and not. And so it's really easy to get into a level where you're like, I don't need to do safety tools. I know my friends. I don't need to do any of that. That's exactly when you need to do safety tools. And I am a big proponent of doing that. Even if you've been playing for 20, 30 years with the same group of people, I guarantee you someone has walked out of that a game and been disappointed with something that happened and just did not feel comfortable enough to say it. So here we try to institute lines and veils. We're very big on doing session zeros and other things with the cast, and just to make sure that everyone's comfortable with where we're going to go. And no, we don't always do it all the time, but like Steven said, we have open door policies to try and get that through. But it's a big component, and I think especially of streamed games, but I think of just home games. I think it's a really good thing to start working on. So we're trying to do that more and more. Arkwright's Landry, is running tech remotely much more difficult than in person?
Oh, Eric?
Yes and no.
Yeah, I would.
It's like when we were running things at the studio, there's a lot more moving parts, and a lot more can go, like a little thing can go wrong and it completely destroys the show when you're doing it live in one room. But it's also fairly, you just turn it on and it happens. So there's a lot more room for error on a streamed RPG over the internet. So there's a lot more things that can go wrong, and the show can still go, but also things are more likely to fail.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
one 6 dozen of another, whatever the thing is.
There's two kind of separate. They're two entities, and they each have pros and cons with them, and doing it remotely has been really interesting, and we are able to do things that we have not done normally. Having a chat and having a direct communication with everyone at the table. Having the captions.
That's such a
nice.
Because we've talked about this a little bit. Like, I don't know how we do captions when it's safe to return to the studio. How easy it is for us to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, individual captions will be very hard, if not impossible, without spending money. There are a lot of companies that offer a captioning service, which it's a bit out of our price range, but there are things that we can look into. There's some potential tech stuff, but it gets very audio focused, and you got to do a lot of testing, and we're not at a point where we can do that testing. But anyway, yeah, there are some really cool things that we can do this way, and there are things that we can't do this way, and so it's been an interesting process figuring out what those tech options are.
And it sucks that we can't all be in a room, but it also opens up. It's been nice to also open up the opportunity to play with people we wouldn't normally get to play with, because not everyone lives in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, I mean, most people.
Is that even true though? I don't.
I haven't heard about anyone outside of LA.
Me neither.
So. Gray Day has 3 questions. We got 4 more questions left. Gray Day's got 3 questions.
3 of the 4.
Yes. If your character was transported to our world and knew that this was their home, what would they do first?
Easy. It's 2020 and Bells has the voice. There are things that need to happen right now.
Oh, yeah.
In the field of public health, like...
Bring about the
collapse.
I accept Bells as my new overlord.
Yeah.
I accept Bells as my new overlord.
This is like we joked about Bells and Flynn teaming up. I think this is the scenario where they would radically change human existence.
Oh God,
yeah.
Yes.
This is absolutely the Flynn Bells team up.
Wait, do y'all know how many fucking Nazis there are to punch?
Yeah.
Megan just
would
shows up
have
and
a
goes,
field day.
and then she just disappears in a Megan-shaped cloud.
Will takes one of the moves from the Artisan Playbook and just creates the cure for COVID.
Yes.
Great.
We've done dogs, so now
creation and distribution. This is perfect. This is ideal. And clearance. Taking out the trash. There we go.
Yeah, perfect.
You're gonna be your own like Captain America #1 punching Hitler cover. I love it.
Y'all, we are an absolute unit. Like, put our characters in 2020, we would crush it.
Guys, I did Hotel California to get away from reality.
Oops.
Right, but what about the fantasy of fixing it with phenomenal cosmic power?
I do love that. I do love that. Also, I apologize everyone for my little Zenyatta background. I got jealous of Aubrey's.
Why are you apologizing and why did you switch it back?
I guess subconscious.
How dare. This works. I have wings. This is normal.
Yeah, but you're not a Mercy main, so
Excuse me, if you look at my name, it does in fact say I'm a Mercy main now. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
meta shift, can't be helped.
Yep.
Gray, they also asks, we've done dogs, so now what food would your characters be?
Souffle.
Souffle.
Yeah, that
Requires
makes sense.
perfect execution.
Mm-hmm.
Little bougie.
Little bougie, which is very Bells. And sweet.
Just like whole milk. Literally hard to swallow, but people put up with it anyway.
Yeah.
I like whole milk.
I think Flynn would be those like bean boozles, like because most of them are awful and some of them are just kind of okay.
I think Will is a Southern home cooked meal with all the fixins.
Wow.
Hell
I
yeah.
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I was actually going to say
Meal.
Flynn is a slurry of Mountain Dew and Doritos, but
Flynn is for sure a Baja Blast, like the frosty one.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, it's a special limited edition like 7-Eleven Baja Blast Slurpee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's very good.
If you, the person/player, were a worshiper of your character, what would you ask them to do for you?
See that previous question about 2020.
Yo, fucking, how dare you beat me to the kids? We're in a blood feud now. Damn it.
There was a clarification though. This is more like little, like personal things rather than world-changing things.
Oh,
If you
also
don't want to
easy.
answer that though,
Get all of these fine people really big social media followings. Did you know that like Bria's not at 10K yet?
I'm not even at 1K.
That was the next thing that I was going to say in my sentence.
mm-hmm.
So like I want to see like 6 figures after all of these people's names. Hi Bells, how are you doing?
Bria needs 10,000 followers. Get on that, everyone.
Everyone
desperately
boost
need it.
everyone. Let's get
Yeah.
Steven to a K. Let's get everybody up there in the cut.
More forever.
More for everyone, forever.
I just want Flynn to get universal basic income, so that way we could all like just do this for a living, because we wouldn't have to do it for a living because we would be able to do what we care about.
Oh, that'd be nice.
I think I would ask Megan for this strength to like, I don't know, that idea that like Megan is a person for whom no is a full sentence, and like I would love that feeling. Just like, hey, just allow me to not take bullshit for one whole day. What would that even feel like?
I mean, this is kind of difficult. I don't think that there's anything specific that I would want Will to do for me. Mostly because, I mean, I really don't know. I like Will's playbook is such that like I would have to be in major trouble if I needed their help with anything in particular. I guess what I would want from Will is a more expansive ability to absorb things, because I often have conversations with Sam where they say things that go over my head all the time. And I guess Will is just so much more, like so much smarter than I am. And I just would love to have the ability to keep up with conversations with people when they get really into their specific interests, so that I could follow even a little bit of what is going on. Because it's not even just Sam. It's like if we get into like the deep end of any particular subject, I'm suddenly completely lost and cannot follow. Like we had a whole conversation earlier today before we even started about Overwatch, and I was just like, so it's that idea that like Will has a general broad sense of everything, and so therefore never really feels left out of conversations, that I would probably be like, teach me how to be the person that doesn't feel like the loose end on this conversation.
I mean, a lot of that white male privilege is a lot of that. It's like every conversation I have an opinion about, even if I don't know what I'm talking about.
Lord, give me the confidence.
Please, God, I just want that confidence.
I have two new. Sorry, one. I would pray to. I would pray to Will, because I have two new plant sons, and I've never kept plants alive well, and I just like, please help my little citronella, because I can't get bit by any more mosquitoes. I will die.
Why do you hate me, and where are the pictures? These two questions are related.
I have to like put them in their new stuff. They're still like from Home Depot, just languishing in the sun.
I pray to Will because I don't give a fuck about bipedalism, but chronic pain is no fun. Please help.
Fair enough.
Heart of Handprints. What everyday things would you do with each of the other PCs when you found extra free time with one of them that wasn't spent saving the world?
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time? That went by me a little too fast.
What everyday things would you do with each of the other PCs when you found extra free time with one of them that wasn't saving the world? So, like, what things would you get up to with your characters when you weren't saving the world?
Megan would make Flynn teach her how to play video games well. She would definitely go with Will to like a big like medical expo, because there is like a little bit of like kinesiology like crossover, and then just let them like nerd out about all the stuff that they care about and just let it wash over Megan, so she could retain one thing, spout it back later, and be like praised disproportionate to her actual knowledge set. And then, man, I feel like it's gotta be just some real embarrassing like movie nights with Bells, of just like watching stuff and like feeling feelings, and then being like, please don't tell anyone, but I super love my big fat Greek wedding, and I know there's irony there, but like, can we watch it? Please don't tell anyone. And just having like vulnerable, like goofy vulnerable moments, not like dramatic touching ones, just like, here's like dumb shit that I didn't get to do with any friends because I didn't really have friends growing up. Like, will you be my sister bestie? And just have a lot of those interactions.
Oh gosh, they both get to have like a little girlhood denied kind of vibe. That's so good. Damn, that's like a Mario game that has levels.
So that's my answer.
I think Flynn would definitely have Bells like show him how to use certain social media as a platform, because he doesn't fully understand how it works. So like what do the kids care about? How do I turn like the message of, you know, down with the bourgeoisie into a TikTok dance? You know,
it would 100% be teaching Flynn TikTok. Yeah. That is the correct like Flynn medium.
Yeah.
I think Megan would help him like would not maybe by choice, but force him to like go on hikes or leave the house and get sun. Like they probably do that sort of stuff on occasion, like do a thing that is outside. And I feel like definitely him and Will would probably in a similar thing. I think Will would show him like the things that are important to know about, like things that beyond like the like just surface level politics about this like Will would be like, no, but like, you know, did you know that the California rent fund that your landlord can say, no, I don't want you to pay rent with the rent fund, so that you don't get to use it.
Jesus Christ.
Which is a real thing I found out about today.
Today I learned horrible things. All right.
I know that in particular, Bells would collab with Flynn on issues of ocean and ecological pollution, because that became very important.
The fishing industry
in the between two. Yep. See, exactly. It became very important to them between season 2 and 3. Like we saw at the beginning of season 3 that it's not just walking into the ocean. Bells has a genuine interest in that as like a natural space, which is probably also the point of connection separately with Will. And the idea that Flynn and Bells could team up and do a trickery on someone that Bells would feel good about, for the purpose of like, they have strong loyalty to their mermaid friends, and like their world should be good too.
Then we take down Jeffree Star.
See, there we go. And so yeah, I Will and Bells had plenty of experiences together. They did lots of stuff. And Bells and Megan probably would just girl out. I love that so much. That just makes me so happy. They're perfect. They both need that so much.
So much.
Yeah, I think we've hit the Venn diagram, so we can move on.
All right.
Let's see. Key squared. If your characters got into video games, what would they play?
Will is 100% point and click adventures.
Makes sense.
Megan would be so into first-person shooters.
Yeah.
Also makes sense.
Not fighter games?
No, I think they would be bored. Like, Megan likes teamwork. So, I mean, Overwatch is a very easy analog for like, let's work together. And she does a lot of like yelling about getting on the payload, just like a Bria.
Oh, I love the idea of Megan in voice chat.
Yeah.
Just constantly getting like the shot caller endorsement.
I feel like, yeah, Flynn and Megan would like play a lot of FPSs together, and like Flynn would be like trying to convince her to play Escape from Tarkov, but like knowing that like that's a little too far out there for most people.
Bells does single-person story-focused games where the graphics are always turned up to like 11, and like 90% of their interaction with the game is looking at the pretty. They would figure out, like, they would kindly ask someone else to figure out how to break their Skyrim with mods so that it would be pretty.
And
just to expand a little bit, not just point and click adventures. I think that Will would also be super into indie games and anything that like was like high on the art end. Not too dissimilar from like the type of games I also like to play. But I think indie games in particular would be like a huge thing for them, and like supporting that kind of creativity. And also the point and click adventure specifically would be like mystery based point and click. So they probably play like the old school Sherlock Holmes games and things like that.
My first answer for Will would have been, have you ever played Baba Is You? I don't know why I've decided that Will would love that game, but it's very silly. It's so good. It's sort of a puzzle.
Flynn would tell Will to play it. I don't know whether or not Will would actually.
That sounds very in line. That sounds very in line.
It's a fun puzzle game that teaches you how to do literal coding.
Huh.
So
I will
good.
look that up later. And just
Damn, let's play. Sorry. Okay.
And just because I have thought about this for some NPCs, Victor only plays like really chill cell phone games that are supposed to milk you for money, but he never actually does the money, so he's still on like level 5 of Candy Crush. Tuck plays anything that's hyper competitive and very, very weird and niche. There is a lot of Dota.
Tuck and Flynn are really heavy into Dota, League, and Escape from Tarkov.
Yes. She also plays all the Final Fantasy games, even the spin-off ones. And Little John plays basically any game where you get to have a pet. So Sonic Adventure 2, where you get to raise the little Chow. That's like their perfect game.
I see you and raise you. Megan yelled at Lil Jon to become a Zarya main in Overwatch, and there's one like emote where she gets a puppy for Christmas, and that's what did it. We got the cosmetic that was like,
oh no,
also
we
a big
about $400
there's a
on loot boxes that year.
We could have
Oh,
asked
Mary
one of
would
our lucky
destroy at
friends.
CS:GO. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I forgot. Mary doesn't do video games. She thinks it's nerd shit, but every time she plays a first-person shooter, she always ends up breaking it.
Yeah, she gets banned because they think she's cheating.
They think she's a bot, and she might as well be. And Tracy plays exclusively visual novels.
All right. We have one final question.
All right.
And this is from Thesser. And we unlocked new Pantheon. What Powered by the Apocalypse setting other than demigods would you want to see these characters play in, and why?
I'd like to see them actually play Apocalypse World. Apocalypse World is the original game Powered by the Apocalypse comes from, and it is a post-apocalyptic adventure. And I think demigod, and maybe it's just I'm partial to it because my very first stream was post-apocalyptic, but yeah, I think that'd be very fun.
Anyone
I
else?
mean, there's always a place for a face character like Belle's, though I love the idea of Apocalypse World because like that would raise them down from like everything that mattered to them. So that's just really story appealing. I've played Masks, so like I've played a lot of Masks and I love it a lot. And you can always move, like demigods and Masks can kind of go back and forth fairly comfortably because under the hood, like if you scratch the surface, it's super heroics. Like their gods have superpowers effectively. But also like Belle's, particularly when they acquired the voice, had a very classical superpower, one that Aki explored somewhat in Callisto 6 and proved is just really, really good story juice. So I would like a glass of that, I think.
I mean, yeah, it was like what once I was like a monster a week maybe, but no, Wide World of Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
That's not incorrect even a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't have a high level of familiarity of the many different genres that have been touched on. And I know there have been so many, but I would actually really love to see how these kids would be in like an alien invasion style situation.
Ooh.
Like kind of pump up the volume on the sci-fi a little bit and see how they do with that. Because I think that would be very interesting.
Cool.
And I like Monster of the Week, so I would probably want to like dip in and just like, I don't know, what if the squad was a little bit younger and had like a very Buffy like experience with their demigodhood? I think that would be like cute and silly.
That would be fun.
Nice. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you all for everyone who was watching at home and contributed to our goals. Our $500 plus 50 subs.
Not expecting to
raised up
to have that today.
Yes. So we will do it. We have 2 one-shots that have been unlocked now, last week's and this week. So we will work on scheduling those at some point soon, we hope, and we'll get them on the books, and you will have those one-shots. Thank you so much for unlocking them. That's amazing, and it goes a long way. So very much appreciated. And thank you to our new Pantheon. Thank you for telling this story. We're looking forward to 2021 and when we can talk more about that. But why don't we go around the horn and everyone say where people can find you, and then all of you people at home go and follow these people so that we can get their numbers out. And then here's my, actually no, I'll tell you my homework after.
Ooh.
Go ahead, starting with Eric.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Eric, and you can find me on the internet most places at Mostly Eric, which is where I stream on Twitch 4 days a week. And you can catch me back here on Tuesdays for Pirates of Salt Bay, which is our pirate-themed Dungeons and Dragons show, which is not just a great show to watch just in general, but it's also GM'd by the the incomparable Abria Iyengar.
I don't know her.
I don't know where she is in relationship to me, so
I had to look. She's above me,
Point
Okay.
that way.
this one.
Other way.
as she always is
Other
and
way.
always will be.
I will. Nope. I'm not gonna say the joke I was gonna say. I took the high road for the first time in my life.
Bad mistake, really.
That's what chat
Aki.
is for.
Hi everybody, I'm Aki, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at MixGenie in a Bottle. That's MXGINIINABOTTLE. And my full streaming schedule is available on my Twitch stream over at twitch.tv/ShidariAki, which is SHIDAREAKI. And over on Twitch, I'm so far away from 1,000 followers, but I would really like 1,000 followers on Twitter. I'm just saying. Please follow me on Twitter, not Twitter, on Twitch is what I meant to say. I'm at nearly 3,000 on Twitter, but whatever. But I want 1,000 followers on Twitch. Please follow me. I'm begging. I'm not above begging.
Do it. Do it.
Sam.
Hi, I'm Sam Delev. You can't find me anywhere. My stealth check is too high, but if you want to see my words, they are available for your viewing pleasure on Twitter at Tchaikovsky, ChaikovSky. You can also see the manifestation of what approximates a corporeal form here within the Twitcher void. That full schedule is on twitch.tv/Delevely, DELEVELY. I am next returning tomorrow for Clear Skies, and my GM said that we should really tune in and be very careful about spoilers, and like this was an episode not to miss, and I don't know what is hap, so I have concerns. You are cordially invited to join me for share concern.
Abria.
Hi, I'm Abria Iyengar. You can catch me on social media at Quiddy, QUIDDIE. Yeah, fuck it. Let's do the full schedule. All right. So on Sundays, you can catch me from all these times are Pacific. I will not clarify that again. From 12 to 3 p.m., you can catch me on Critical Bard's channel playing Creature Collector. On Monday, you can catch me with Aki playing with the Roll20 crew on D&D's Twitch stream playing Lost Mine of Phandelver. On Tuesdays, as Eric mentioned, I get to run Eric and a fantastic crew through Pirates of Salt Bay. On Wednesday, starting next Wednesday, not this upcoming week, you can catch me on Dimension 20's new side quest, Pirates of Leviathan. On Thursdays, starting towards the end of the month, you can catch me on Dragon and Things channel playing Department of Mysteries, being GM'd by Megan Caves, which is so exciting. Every other Friday, you can catch a new episode of 12-Sided Stories. We're currently running through Heliotrope, which is a Hack the Planet game that I'm running for the squad. And 2 Saturdays from now is D&D Celebration, and I'm playing a game from 12 to 3 p.m. DM'd by Latia Jaquise and playing with like an amazing group of people, and it's gonna be super fun.
God, that group is so lit. I love it so much. It's so good.
Yeah. There's a couple other projects down the pipeline, but I won't announce until they announce. And yeah, it's gonna be super fun.
Very cool.
And Steven.
Hey everyone, my name is Stephen Pope. You can find me online at StephenJPope22. I really want to get to 1,000 Instagram followers. Not Instagram. I don't care about Instagram. I want 1,000 Twitter followers before the end of the year, but I'm not hoping for miracles here. You can catch me every Wednesday on Games We Never Play Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv/Games We Never Play. For Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition, It's Always Sunny in the Shadows. And you can also catch me on Games We Never Play, the gaming exploratory podcast, which releases every Monday. Apart from that, I'm not really around much right now. Bummer.
I mean, you're here. You're right here.
I'm here.
You're in front of us right now. We
You're
see
right
you.
here.
Yes. So I will tell you that this Tuesday is Pirates of Salt Bay, as was previously stated. We have a guest, I believe. And can we announce the guest?
Yes. Yes? I don't know. It's no. Let's say no, just because I want to get everyone locked in before.
Got it. Okay.
I don't know.
All right. So you're going to want to tune in
I'm
Tuesday.
very bad at this.
Tuesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time,
dear.
11 p.m. Eastern time for Pirates of Salt Bay. Then Wednesday, we continue, or Wednesday. Ooh. Hi, there's a fire out there. Anyway, Friday at 8 p.m., there is a brand new episode of Wild Cards, our Deadlands Weird West series that is Nightlingers Traveling Carnival of the Extraordinary. It is quite fun, and you can watch me in that and give me a follow at Gadzook, GADZOOK on Twitter. I am this close to 2,000 followers, so that's pretty
Hey.
but yeah, please do watch our stuff. Watch what all of these people are doing. It helps us out a lot, and your homework is between now and when New Pantheon 2021 comes back, I want you to get 5 of your friends. And don't tell me you don't have friends, because you have us. So you at least have these people here. But I guarantee you there are other Saving Throw people that might not have tuned in to New Pantheon. So I ask you to go out, proselytize, tell people how much you enjoy New Pantheon. Tell people that might write articles for things, or maybe do other cool things that you think might be interesting, and tell them how cool New Pantheon is as a show, and let people know that they can watch it on YouTube. The previous 3 seasons will be up on YouTube, are on YouTube for the most part, except for this episode. Go and rewatch and point people to it. Because we would love to have a ton of people coming through and watching the new series when it starts back up in 2020.
Write a bunch of fan fiction, publish it on.
Yeah,
Three.
share it with people who do art and all of that stuff.
I'm checking AO3 in 1 month. There better be something on there.
You've
I mean,
heard
this is fertile ground.
Yeah.
What?
Fertile ground.
For real.
Yeah. So
I mean, the fix it fan fiction writers will have a field day with Will. So
Oh my
like,
God, right?
So please,
Amen to that,
please,
Dom.
Yes, please do this. From the bottom of my heart, this is one of my favorite shows that we do here, and we do a lot of great shows that I love, but this is really one of them. So please, we can't wait for you to see the 2 one-shots and then the brand new season. We can't wait to tell you about it, but please do bring friends in here. Go check out the YouTube videos, comment, subscribe, do all of that stuff. Hit the little bell icon so you know when new things come in, and join our Discord. Come on, we've got a new Pantheon channel on the Discord, and we would love to have you there. So on behalf of all of us here at Saving Throw, we love you all, and stay safe, stay healthy, wear a mask, stay away from fires, drink a lot of water. What else? I don't know. See a therapist if you need to see a therapist.
Wash your
Be a
hands.
good organism and be kind to your corporeal form.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You only
do
get
all
one that
stuff.
we've proven thus far.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly.
Only
All right,
one
all.
provable form is great.
All right.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.